train wreck cases. And one of the last people that came to my dad's clinic was actually hit by a train. Dude, when the body's that broken, what do you do? Right?
Mm-hmm.
But the real thing is the body never ceases to amaze me.
Welcome to the Beauty Seed.
Well, Adam Bigelsen, we met at Music and Sky. It was fantastic. You and I had some opportunities to really get into the meat of a great many topics, several of which I'd like to revisit. First off,
Cool.
welcome to the Beauty Seed. I'm so glad you could join us. We've been attempting to get this in the works for a while now. So glad you're here.
Good to be here.
Yeah, you were just talking about the terrain of your thinking, and obviously, for many of the audience, and for those who don't, your father was fairly integrated in the terrain space, correct? And
Yeah.
led you into a big change in life. You want to start there?
Oh yeah, sure. Here comes my life story. You guys ready for this one? When I was a little boy. Yeah. Yes, my life has been interesting. All our lives are interesting, to say the least, you know.
Yeah.
And I enjoy talking to people. I'm always interested in what people went through to get to stand in front of me and talk with me, right? So, my dad was my dad was very high functioning. When dad was in fourth grade, they gave him a history or a math test, like a placement test. And they said, do the test on page 44. And he did the test on page 444 by accident. And he got 100% and he didn't show any work. So, of course, they said, well, you cheated, you know. So they gave him another test and he got 100% and didn't show any work. So in fourth grade, he was doing 12th grade math in his head. All right. And my brother and sister and I, all growing up, would cry with my dad trying to help us with our math homework because he was kind of like,
he didn't show his work.
well, and he was looking at us and yelling at us like, don't you get it? It's like, we're gonna get it. So he looked at math as like a language. You know, it was really interesting how his brain worked. So he did some interesting things, though. He went to medical school. He asked questions. You know, they said, read the book. And his response was, I think the book is wrong. So he questioned his education, right? Then he got drafted to Vietnam. He was an eye surgeon. He was a Vietnam trauma surgeon. And as he was there, he saw the lies that the government told people about Vietnam. You know, we've all heard these stories. But the hospital that he worked in Vietnam had a 98% survival rate. And he came back to the United States, and he didn't see that in the United States. You know, like in a time of war, the hospitals were getting better success rate. So he questioned his schooling, he questioned his government, he questioned the medical system. You know, he really questioned a lot, and he went to find answers. You know, what he did was he became the rich eye surgeon, which is what he wanted to do. He was in his mid-30s, and he had everything. We had the Porsche and the Jaguar. And when I was a kid, we didn't have art on the walls. We had artists paint on our walls, right? So he decided, though, he wanted to find a way to really help people. He was near suicidal, is what he said at that point in his life. He had achieved everything. But, and this is a good story. You'll like this one. Mom, happy wife, happy life, you know. So rich doctor's got the money and mom wants to do things, you know. She wants to do crazy things. She wants to see a psychic. That's just crazy, whatever. So mom goes to see a psychic, and the psychic says, as soon as she meets my mother, he says to her, I need to meet your husband. We need to talk. So dad went to see the psychic. Psychic Vincent Ragone. There's not a lot out there on him, but he was psychic to 4 presidents.
Right.
Right. These are the things that we've heard. But, you know, when my dad was with him at one point, the White House called and he went to go be at Camp David with Jimmy Carter. All right. I get chills with some of these things, right?
Yeah. Who just passed.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I saw the day of mourning. So meanwhile, Vincent Ragone, psychic, introduced dad to the work of Edgar Cayce.
Mm-hmm.
And Edgar Cayce said, the physician of the future will diagnose the condition of the entire body through one drop of blood. Isn't that interesting now?
And that really hit a tone.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was thrilled. You know, he really found something new. As a kid, I remember, yeah, the Porsche and the Jaguar. Then we dropped everything. Dad took like a 70% cut in pay. We moved out to Scottsdale, Arizona. We got the Blazer and the Datsun, you know, and he started learning about homeopathy and holistic medicine. And it was awesome because I remember as a kid him coming home so excited about work. Oh, this person came in with, you know, MS or something, and we did this, and this changed, and blah, blah, blah. And I even remember thinking, MS? Isn't muscular dystrophy like Jerry Lewis, you know? I said, can you do stuff with that, Dad? With the Jerry Lewis telethon? And Dad was like, yeah. And I said, well, call Jerry Lewis. And Dad said, Jerry Lewis doesn't care. I said, what do you mean? He said, if I cure muscular dystrophy, then he has no more telethon. Right?
First order principles.
Well, and this is how I grew up. You know,
Yeah.
I grew up in a strange, different environment, and I've always felt like a little bit of an alien, which a lot of us do, you know. But looking back on this experience, you know, my dad did something really interesting. He found a new way to help people. You know, homeopathy, holistic medicine in the 80s was a new thing in a way, as far as the medical industry was concerned. But he was excited. He was learning new ways to help people, and it was all terrain related. It was all about the body and nature, you know. And for Dad to be excited, for me as a kid to see my dad excited with his work was cool. My brother and my sister, it's interesting because Tom Cowan asked Josh once, we were doing one of these interviews, and he said, when did the terrain start for you? And Josh said, I've never known any different. You know, so the way we've lived our lives, I saw Dad as the eye surgeon. Josh was too young to remember a lot of that. You know? And then our sister, who's the youngest, she just grew up in the terrain experience. You know, so this has been our life. And I'll tell you this too, you know, just real quick to get into this is the crash course. I can tell you all about my dad's history, you know.
I want to get into to who you are as well.
Yeah,
so.
we'll do that. Well, and this is where I come into play too. Our roles are pretty interesting. You know, as humans, as individuals, sometimes we feel very small and insignificant in the grand scheme. But never sell yourself short, because you never know. Something that you do could affect someone else who does something else, and then there's a chain reaction of things. So for me, it was interesting. I was getting ready to go to college. All right, I was going to college in a week, and I got mononucleosis so bad that I was showing minor signs of hepatitis. And Dad is the doctor. You know, he works with everybody. He's awesome. Well, Dad had just come back from a trip. He got to visit with Gaston Naessens. So Gaston Naessens, famous physicist in Canada. He's the guy that was using the dark field microscope, right, and looking at these little microscopic things in the blood, like bions, like Wilhelm Reich talks about.
Well, and just to clarify, that's looking at things in the blood that are alive, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is to differentiate between standard practice, which is to look at things that are stained, dead,
right,
and inactive, inert.
Yeah.
So just to clarify that.
Yeah. Well, and it was neat. My dad was thrilled. Like when he got to see Gaston Naessens, he looked into that microscope, and my dad said he had never seen the blood alive. You know, 7 years of medical school, they don't do that. So when he saw these things, he saw things he had never seen before. And he said he got chills. He needed to know what's going on there. And Gaston
Single drop of blood.
Dude, it was it. Like Dad could see things coming together, you know, and he was very, I can never remember, left brain, right brain. He's the numbers guy. Like he's not into the wooey experience.
That would be a left brain attribution, typically.
One of these days I'll figure that out. So very left brain. And for him to get involved in this.
Yeah, it's nice to have both of them working together.
Yeah.
Called bilateral communication, for those who are interested. Look it up.
Nice. Yes, I like to think someday I'll achieve some of that. So I will remember left brain, Dad, left brain, right? There's a way to do this. So meanwhile, as Dad saw the blood, he was excited, but then he came back to the States and he was kind of like, he was a little overwhelmed. He needed to learn about this. He didn't know what to do. No one is doing this. You know, Naessens is a pioneer. So I get sick. And Dad somehow finds a German doctor living on an Indian reservation, a Native American reservation in Arizona, who works with the microscope. So there's no
Cool.
coincidences, right? These things happen. And you'll love this story too, because dude, my tonsils, my throat is so swollen I can barely breathe. Like I just want you to cut a hole in my throat. My girlfriend is
Stick the trach in.
yeah, totally. I mean, it was like that. My girlfriend, I'm going to college. I won't see her, just give me a kiss. No, it's contagious. You'll get the kissing disease,
Yeah, that was the name of it too. I
Yep.
remember that.
Totally. The kissing
In
disease.
high school.
Yep. So what happened though was dad brings the doctor in and he took my blood and he looked at it. He didn't really share a lot with dad, but he took my blood. He took a bunch of blood actually, and he mixed it with some remedies in a syringe. He looked at it under the microscope. He shot the syringe with a laser while I held it in my hand, and he had me think happy thoughts. So this is unique for us. So do this, and then he takes this big needle, I remember this, and say ah, right? So they're injecting my tonsils. And here's a cool one too. My dad's he's the Jewish doctor from Brooklyn, New York, and the German guy actually flew in the Luftwaffe. So you've got, this guy flew in Hitler's Air Force, right? Working with the Jewish doctor. So very surreal. It's like this weird horror movie, I can see this. So he injects my tonsils with a lot of the remedy, takes the rest of the remedy and puts it into my butt cheek and says to my dad, your son will be fine. He can go to college. The next day, the swelling was down. The coloring of my tonsils was different. My white cell came down like miraculously. And 5 days later, I went off to college.
Mm-hmm.
And
what did he inject in you, real quick?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Which is an interesting topic of conversation.
Well,
later.
and I said, I've never been asked this question. As I think about it, I think he introduced dad to cell therapy, which was like small, like lung tissue or liver tissue, small doses of it, like homeopathic versions of that. So knowing what I know about mono and that stuff now, that's a good question. We'll get into that one in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I got better. And dad said to the German guy, come and work in my office. So German guy comes and works in the office, Dr. Friedrich Ploeg, okay? And all of a sudden, this is like 80s, late 80s? Yes. I went to college in 88, 89. All of a sudden, as this doctor is working in dad's office, Farrah Fawcett comes to the office. And Ryan O'Neal and the cast of like Dynasty and Dallas. Because they know this German doctor. They follow him around. He was doing regenerative, rejuvenative therapies. So when the awards shows come up, he makes them look young and pretty. So if nothing else, my dad's like thinking, something's going on here, And he started to try to study the guy's work. He didn't really share a lot of it. Dad would like study his case files after hours, But the Berlin Wall came down and he went back to Germany to find his family. And so dad's a little lost. And it's funny because no coincidences. Right? This woman walks in the door of the clinic. She's about 4 foot tall, high heels, big red hair, flowing black cape, diamond encrusted cigarette holder, right? And she says, I am here. And we're like, oh, okay. Well, she does the microscope work. Interesting.
Trippy.
I get chills with these stories, dude.
Yeah.
And you had Dr. Friedrich Ploeg, and then this is Dr. Silke Friedrich. So 2 Friedrichs, okay? And she does something.
Frodrick.
Yes. Frodrick. Extra points for that one.
Yeah.
If your listeners get the references, right, they get extra points, right?
That's right.
So
It might be a door prize.
Josh and I do that all the time. Yep. We give prizes all the time. We actually sent one of our students the other day the best diagnostic device ever as a prize. You know what it is? Remember the magic 8-ball?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just say, is this cancer? And shake the magic 8-ball and put it together.
I have one. I thought it was on my desk, but
best diagnostic device ever.
So the 2 now I can't pronounce it. Is it Frederick or Friedrich?
Friedrichs, yes. The Friedrichs. So Silke Friedrich is there and she's looking at the microscope and she's working with dad. So what happens is a patient comes in and you've got Silke on one side, patient in the middle, dad on the other side. Dad looks in the microscope and he guesses because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. All right. He's still doing holistic, but he's still stuck in Western in a way. So he says, do you have any stomach problems? And Silke's on the other side shaking her head. Okay. Did you have anything going respiratory? No. your thinking process, your cognitive experience? You're thinking very clearly these days? Oh, yeah. She starts pulling on her ear. So she's coaching him, right? And at one point, she says to the patient, "How did you break your arm?" And he says, "I didn't tell you I broke my arm." So dad says, "Can you excuse us? I need to talk to the doctor." And he says, "How the hell do you know this?" And she points in the microscope, and he looks in the microscope, and there's an image that looks just like a broken arm. So this is the first thing, for dad, one thing is the living blood, right? Another thing are these holograms. And dad sees this, and he's a numbers guy, right? Once doesn't mean crap. But she does this for a year in his office, over and over. She's seeing things in the blood, and they start treating what they're seeing in the blood, and people's symptoms, everything's starting to change. So my dad, he was thrilled with the whole experience. And I'll tell you this, we hired private detectives to try to find out where these people learned from, and we could not. We do not know.
Huh.
All we found on Silka was like a third grade education. And dude, the stories, we're convinced that they learned many of these things by experimenting on my relatives during the Holocaust. When you have live subjects, right?
Yeah, I've heard some of these possibilities posited.
Very interesting though, too. And for me, what we teach is awesome. We educate and empower people. You learn how awesome this body is that we have. You support it, and it can do amazing things. So to think about Holocaust, for people that believe in the Holocaust, we question everything these days, right?
Yeah.
One of the worst things ever in history came this work. And now you have a Jewish doctor, like someday I will take this work back to Germany. We're the only ones in the world who do this work the way we do it. There's no one else doing this work this way. Right? There's the live blood analysis experience, which is very confusing. My dad was the third doctor in U.S. history to analyze the blood live, right? Royal Rife, Virginia Livingston Wheeler, and then my father. So live blood analysis, though, is not what we do, because that's a brand, also known as nutritional microscopy, okay? So for listeners, people watching, listening, we have very similar images with a very, very different interpretation and philosophy. But in the end of what went on with my dad, with me, with these two German doctors, is his experience changed. His results were awesome. The things he learned also, he learned certain things from reading Edgar Casey's medical readings. And he started to do experiments. And my dad got results with things no one was getting results with. And then, you get, important, or you get recognized, and then you get in trouble for these things, right?
Yeah.
So my father, as a medical doctor, was brought up on charges of illegible handwriting.
Now that's a legal term to parse.
Even the judge laughed at that. Okay. And when I was a kid, my teachers would say, "Your handwriting's horrible, Adam." And I would say, "Oh, my dad's a doctor." And they would laugh. So this is a joke. And my dad said that's one thing he learned in medical school, was how to have a horrible handwriting, because he's going to write so many prescriptions, he's got to get it down. So horrible handwriting. And then he was brought up on charges of curing someone by illegal means. Okay. So pandemic and all this stuff, they don't.
Which means, real quick, to parse that, curing someone by illegal means you're operating outside your contract.
Yeah.
Or licensure.
You got it. And the thing was this, the head of the medical board, David Ben Asher, I think was his name, said to my father, "We do not care that your patient got better." And that's right there, to me, I know they do not care about your health. So with the whole pandemic of trust us and all this crap, they don't care. We wrote the book on it, actually. My dad has a book called Medical Conspiracy in America. We have proof of medical conspiracy. That was an interesting court case. We've had crazy court cases. That one, actually, one of my dad's court cases, they brought in Andrew Weil to testify against my father. Okay. And they gave him behind closed doors transcripts by accident of them saying, "We need to get rid of Bigelsen." And when Andy Weil got on the stand, he said, "You need to drop this case, or I'm taking these transcripts to Time magazine."
Nice work, Andrew.
They dropped that
Yeah.
case. They dropped that case. So our life has been crazy. In the midst of this, and then we'll get on to what we're doing too. The last thing that I think is very important to know about my dad is he, Arizona was the first state that had a law that separated the AMA, the American Medical Association, from the AHMA, the American Holistic Medical Association. All right. And my father wrote that law.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah,
I didn't know that part of it.
he changed medicine in the United States. Okay. He gave out the first homeopathic medical licenses. So if you guys watching, listening, have ever been to a homeopathic medical doctor, depending on how old they are, they may have my dad's signature on that license. All right. He was the first president of the board. He gave out the first homeopathic medical licenses. He took power away from the AMA. And they didn't like that. He set up his own FDA somehow. Like they were bringing in remedies and grandfathering in stuff. These things are possible. You know, if you know the law or how to play the game, there's a lot of things that are possible.
Mhm.
You know, bullying is a whole other story that happens. But Dad did awesome things. He also wrote a book called Doctors Are More Harmful Than Germs, which didn't make him a lot of friends in the medical world, right? But he was on Coast to Coast with George Norrie a few times, 4 million listeners there. He's on Gaiam TV, I think 5 different episodes there. We were on Dateline in the 80s and the 90s, you know, when there was only a few networks out there. And they interviewed my dad for 4 hours. And when you saw the show, you saw 3 segments. You saw a woman whose husband had seen our father at one point, my father, and he died later on. There was another segment of there's a homeopath and he's a quack because homeopaths are quacks. So we're going to go in with hidden cameras, you know, undercover and expose the quack. And that was all staged. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you have death.
That's so surprising.
Well, and it's crazy behind the scenes. NBC got the most negative publicity out of my dad's show until they did that GM truck show where they put the explosives in the truck and said they explode when they get hit from the side. You guys were old, so look that stuff up. It happened a long time ago. But they interviewed Dad, and it was basically death, quack, Dr. Bigelsen. You make the connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when they interviewed him, I was a teenager. He didn't answer the questions like when you watch the show. My dad's brother's an allergist, a real doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "You didn't answer the questions, Harvey." And my dad said, "Oh, yeah, I did." They didn't edit it that way, though.
Yeah.
So I knew when I was very young, you don't trust what you see on TV, and they don't care about your health, right? Which is one reason I'm actually very healthy, right? So
Likewise.
there's the long story short of Dad and the whole experience. In the end, I'll tell you the last part of it because we had clinics in different places. He went to Mexico, and Mexico, he did awesome cancer work, very famous for his cancer work.
If I'm correct, he went to Mexico because he needed to get out of the United States
He gave up his medical
to
license.
some degree. Yeah.
Yeah, he gave up, and he said, you know, he wrote an article, "Are we truly free in America?" You know, that was in the 90s or something like that. So he gave up his medical license, and then he was free. He wasn't under their jurisdiction anymore. Now he's a consultant. And he went to Mexico, and Mexico was thrilled. Mexico says, "Look, if you're going to bring people here for medical tourism, awesome. Don't hurt anybody, or we're going to get you."
Yeah.
You know, right. And that happens in Mexico, right? So Dad got to Mexico, and the reason Dad was able to cure cancer as much as he did was because Mexico let him do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is why you get in trouble. And he would say, you cure a cold, you get the Nobel Prize, you cure cancer, you get assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's too big of a moneymaker for them. So in the end, though, Dad on radio shows, things like this, he had a clinic in Nevada City, California. A dentist in town, local guy, heard my dad talking, didn't like what he heard, called the medical board on Dad repeatedly, until they went, "Oh, Bigelsen, let's go get that guy again."
Yeah.
They came to the office during business hours. They took the microscopes. They were brought up on charges of practicing medicine without a license. Even though you see my dad and you sign a form saying you know he doesn't have a license and he's consulting, he never touched you. If he was to stick your finger in California, that could be considered assault, right?
Yeah.
California, they can put your grandma in jail for practicing medicine without a license when she tells you to drink chicken soup when you're feeling sick, you know? So Dad was on with George Norrie. The dentist gets irritated, calls the medical board. They take the microscopes. We have to go to court. until there's no more money. One of Michael Jackson's lawyer came and helped us. He worked on the O.J. Simpson trial, things like that. In the end, yeah, parents lost their money, lost the house. All charges were dropped, I think. And then when it was all over, the medical board had nothing to do with it, supposedly. Renette Senum was involved, actually. Renette, she was running for governor of California. She knew, didn't Trump, she's involved with Kennedy now and somehow with the health experience, which is a whole other game.
I pay very little attention to that world.
Yeah. Well, she was awesome, though. She was the mayor of Nevada City, and she did what I think a true politician should do. She did not know my dad, but she knew he had helped a lot of people in that town, and she saw injustice. And she went after the district attorney, and she said, "What are you doing? This man is great," and he said, "It's the medical board. I'm getting pressure." Now, you won't find this anywhere, and the medical board denies it all, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, we had to pay a fine, and we wrote that check out to the medical board. And we had to pick up our microscopes from the medical board. So, yeah, they had nothing to do with it. And the last part of this one, my mom went to get documentation on the trial, the whole case and everything. And there was a stack of paper, and they said to her at the court, "You have to go get this thing notarized and come back, and we'll give you the paperwork." And she got it notarized and came back, and they lost the paperwork. We have never received any documentation ever on this court case. And there's a mini documentary you can find of Michael Moore talking about Nevada County as one of the last good old boy counties, right? And he's actually standing in the courtroom that our court case was in. So, yay, justice. But dad gave up, he gave up the business, gave up all that stuff. He got a little angry for a bit. Josh went into hiding because Josh was working with dad, my brother. And then a few years later, I dragged Josh out. We went up to Seattle. We started to lecture. We met some awesome people up there. There's an interesting community there. From there, we got to Spain, which we met a ton of people. We lived there for a while, which was awesome. Scientists and doctors and lawyers. Then we came to visit Mom for her birthday, and pandemic happened, and we got locked down. So we never went back to Spain. I ended up living behind the couch in my mom's house for a while, Then eventually I went down to Tijuana, Rosarito. Dad worked in clinics there. I called them up and they said, "Come on down." I said, "The border's closed." They said, "That's fake news." I went to Mexico and I got freedom. All right. Yay. There is true freedom in Mexico. So this is where I'm at now. We were a couple years Tijuana, Rosarito. Now I'm outside of Guadalajara and I'm loving it here. The terrain is awesome. The freedom for me to be able to do what I want to do. We learned some interesting things about Mexico. It's still kind of the Wild West for sure, depending on where you're at and what's going on. But what we learned is one of the controlling families, one of the kids was into homeopathy. So as if a Rockefeller or a Carnegie child, right? So homeopathy will always be in Mexico. That's great.
Cool. Yeah.
And then the other things, this stuff's interesting, Abe. Mexico has some of the lowest cancer rates in the world. Okay. And the US is, I think, number one now. So why is there a line in the sand?
Right.
Everything's different, So lifestyle, I'm leading the Mexican lifestyle. Sometimes mañana comes, Sometimes it doesn't. I thought I knew how to relax. Living in Mexico, I realized I can relax a little more. But it's been nice, though. When I went to Spain, I met my girlfriend. She's a research scientist, worked in a nanobiotechnology laboratory. Very interesting. Is an electrical engineer. So she has a PhD in biomedicine. She's lectured with Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza and things like that. So as we're here, we're doing cool things. My dad passed away at a point where I think the universe allowed him to leave because he did his job. And it happened, the way it went down was the way it was supposed to go down. He did what he needed to do, and now it's time for my brother and I to share this work.
Right,
so
which leads me to a question that came up, and I wanted to let you flow.
Yeah.
And that was you talked about roles. And so you have this father who's quite a force of personality and doing some amazing things and breaking ground in a field of research that very few even knew was possible. And there are roles that we take on in life that are inserted into our family dynamics, into our relationship with the outside world. We often unknowingly take them on, and sometimes we choose to. And in your role as the son of the great man, for lack of a better term, how did that stepping into that role affect your trajectory? Because I know from our conversations, and I also see in the background an instrument. Um, what were the choices that you made negotiating the space of becoming an adult through the roles that were kind of presupposed in some ways, and some of them I assume you chose to step into?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I appreciate it. There was a long time as I was doing this work that I was my father's child. Who am I? I'm the son of Harvey Bigelsen, which is great, but I am Adam Bigelsen as well. My journey's been interesting, even with my brother. It's most of the time we're on the interviews together, but we're starting to become our individuals in the experience, which is nice. So the way this went down was fun. I was always encouraged to be my own individual. When I was very young, I had long hair because I was afraid to get my hair cut. But
When you had her.
Yeah, when I had hair, yep. But then my parents took me to see Kiss, and then everything was awesome, so yay. But I was always a little different. My parents encouraged that. There was a point in time before college when my dad said, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I don't know. He said, do you want to be a doctor? I said, no. He said, good, because I would not let you. Okay. He definitely told my brother and I, he said, never do what I do. So here we are, right?
Yeah.
But he said, he said, when you go to college, I want you to take all kinds of different classes, experience all kinds of different things. Find what you like and take more classes in that. He said, do you want to do music? I've been playing guitar since I was 8. Kiss, thank God for Kiss. Yay. I've learned there's more to life than Kiss, that's for sure. But he said,
a quick side note.
Yeah.
I had a good friend who's passed now, who was the costume designer for Kiss.
Wow, there's a hero. In my world, that's a hero. Holy crap.
I mean, he was a legend in the tailory space for costuming.
Dude, so many years I tried to be Kiss, and I could just not make a good costume. Halloween. Oh, that's hilarious. That's interesting. Yeah, we'll talk about that next campfire, right?
Yeah, totally. So you were saying, sorry.
No, that's all right. Well, Kiss was a funny one for me because I looked like a little girl when I was in elementary school. I got in trouble for going into the boys' bathroom once because they thought I was a little girl. My parents encouraged me
rolls,
to be...
buddy, rolls.
Yeah. My parents encouraged me to be me. They took me to see Kiss when I was 9. It was awesome. I still thank them for that. And my guitar is one of my best friends. There's one here. There's 7 or 8 over there and some drums, right? But so Dad said, do you want to do music as a living? I said, no. He said, okay, good. He said, but you enjoy it, so I want you to keep doing it. I appreciate that from my dad. College was awesome. I ended up doing studies on music and stress and learning, psychology studies, which was really fun. Effects on music, on learning.
I want to dig into that.
That's a big deal. I'm doing well. My worlds have come together. So with my family, though, it's really nice. With my family, though, I kind of kept a distance from Dad's stuff. And I played music. I still play music. I ended up becoming an elementary school teacher. And I could use my music and teach the kids, and this was fun. And
School of Rock.
Yeah, totally. Dude, School of Rock became my job. You'll love this one too.
Yeah.
So life goes on with me. I'm healthy, which is nice. Life happens, fine. I teach elementary school in San Diego, downtown, not a great area. I had the kid,
especially then.
Dude, the first year I taught, I had the kid in my class who tried to kill the teacher downstairs. He tried to poison the teacher downstairs, so they put him in my class. Teachers are heroes, yes.
Good thing you know how to clear out that terrain so that the poison is less effective.
Yes, right. This kid was awesome, though. We became friends. I used music in my classroom. The music that's 60 beats per minute, which is like the relaxed heart rate. Mm-hmm. And I would keep that going all day. And music soothes the savage beasts. Yay. So that helped. But I stayed in my own world. I taught music. My life was I wanted to go, when I was in college, I took a developmental psychology class, and my teacher brought in some children. And we're observing them on the floor, doing puzzles and games and stuff. And something happened at one point where some child came over to me, and next thing you know, I'm on the ground playing with the kids. So after class, my teacher made me stay afterwards, and she said, "Did you ever think about becoming a teacher?" And I thought, "What?" And she said, "Those kids liked you. You know, they didn't go to anybody else." And it was like this moment of I can be standing in that classroom right now. It was this moment of I love school. They'll pay me. I can go back to first grade. I can teach. Like I can go all the way through school again. Wow. And then in the end, I can be a college professor. You know, this was one of my heroes was like, you remember Animal House?
Yeah.
Remember
Filmed
Donald?
here in Eugene, right
Yeah.
where I live.
Oh yeah, you're right. Remember remember Donald Sutherland's character?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to grow up and I'm going to smoke weed with college students and hang out with college girls. Yeah, that's not what went on for those of you watching and listening. But I did end up teaching at a college. I ended up teaching in Lake Tahoe. I taught at a private school, and I taught at an elementary school, and I did School of Rock. Like my job was taking kids who had never played music before, having them play some guitar and some bass and some drums, and we rocked. I taught the little kids. I used to do the hokey pokey at 8:00 in the morning. You know how much fun that is. Interesting way to start your day. And I do think, dude, that bumper sticker, what if the hokey pokey really is what it's all about?
What it's all about, yeah.
Do the hokey pokey, people, and turn yourself around, right? So anyways, I taught at a private school with younger kids. I ended up teaching some rock stars kids.
Yeah.
Yay. And
Real
then,
quick on the hokey pokey.
Yeah.
There is a lot there. And one of the things that comes into mind is the necessity to really learn through play.
Oh, yeah. Dude,
and to integrate the experience of how to play well with others.
Yeah, totally. This is, I really enjoy the Waldorf schooling experience because there's so much. I was a Waldorf teacher for a little bit, teaching English here. And the Waldorf schools have gotten a little weird for those of you that are listening too. But the idea of kids standing on a balance beam with a beanbag on their head, whether having to walk and touch their nose and say the months of the year in English. Like, what the hell is going on? The brain, the stuff, the connections that happen was awesome. I did a student teaching stint before I became a teacher, and I substituted at a Waldorf school. Yeah. And I saw things there. I was like, this is awesome. So that's why I wanted to become a teacher. Besides, I loved school. I know most kids hated school. And when I was the teacher, yeah. I was the teacher you wanted to have, I was fun, I was cool, I was definitely strict, and you learned, And dude, I taught in the hood down in San Diego. The little Jewish guy in the hood, right?
Yeah.
And I had tons of respect. I had the second, third generation gang members in my class. I had the dad with the prison tattoos come in and tell me I could hit his child if he didn't do his homework. I said to him, look, I'm not going to hit your kid. I like my job. He's bigger than me. And he was also the kid who tried to poison the teacher downstairs, but I don't hit children. There's something about that too. But I really liked working with the kids. I loved being in college. I loved learning. And even going back now and learning about schooling, watching like the Ultimate History Lesson with John Taylor Gatto, if you watch these things, there was a moment I thought, oh, did I do that? Like, did I school children? But I think I was that teacher that supported you being unique and really helped you to learn. I became a learning facilitator, not just a teacher.
The aspect of the learning how to learn.
I took a psychology of education course in college, and it was one of the first ones ever offered. Like they taught people to teach for years, and they didn't teach people how people learned.
Mm-hmm.
So I did things a little differently. I really enjoyed it. I used music when I taught. I sang the lessons and things like that. And I don't sing well, which makes it more fun for kids. And these days, you're like this, these days I'm writing, children's songs about the terrain. I got to work on some children's books, I have this idea, non-disclosure, right? You're all signing my non-disclosure. If anyone does
Absolutely.
This, count me in. I want to
this is all private,
okay.
Nobody's.
I want to do Pete the parasite, my little puppet.
Yeah.
Why is everybody trying to kill me all the time? Pete's sad because you don't kill your parasites, people. It doesn't work that way, right? But so for me, the music thing, I ended up teaching rock stars kids. I did studies on music and stress and learning. Some of Dad's patients, like, the people that saw my dad, I was Eileen McCusick's guitar teacher. Awesome.
Yeah.
Somehow I'm in this world of health and music and sound. And one day I was reading a book, The Song of the Spine. I don't read a lot. If you ask me the books, my favorite books are Harry Potter and The Shining, and Holographic Blood. But as I'm reading this book on a plane, it's talking about health and people my dad actually knew. And then it's talking about sound and my language. And the two worlds came together. It was awesome. And then I learned about, doing tuning forks. I have the Accutonics forks here. I have a bunch of forks, but there was a training going on, ironically, the next weekend, and I happened to be going to San Francisco where the training was happening for a concert. So it was kind of like the universe said, hey, check it out. So this is part of my world too. Blood is awesome. The blood is fun to look at. There's no secrets there. And it's neat to know my blood, this just came out of me. Okay. And here's what my blood looks like. And I'm going to go do my tuning forks for 20 minutes and look at my blood again. It looks different. I'm going to do my chi machine and do that. I'm going to do I put my massage table and I put transducers like a gaming chair. So I've got frequencies there. Oh, interesting. And then I have some friends I can talk to who happen to be in that world and I can ask them some questions. You know what I mean? So where I'm at now is awesome because I am still the son of Harvey Bigelsen, okay? But I am Adam Bigelsen. And my dad, the more we look at what he did, the more we realized we can learn a lot from what he did and how he did it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was work that it's not his work. It was work that was given to him to share. So my job was to make sure this work didn't die with my father.
Mm-hmm.
And
now that speaks to something that maybe we can dig into a little bit. And that is, you mentioned the how and the what.
Yeah.
How did your dad's why inform your own?
That was, oh, come on, dude. My dad, why? Because here was the deal. And I watched my dad, he went towards doctors and scientists, and things like this, and politicians. And they weren't interested. Who's interested? I'm interested. You're interested. Your mom's interested. Your grandma's interested. Your sister, us, the average person who has our health stuff going on. And this was also, like I said, Dad had achieved his goal. He was this rich eye surgeon, and he had it all. And now what? What the weird ultimate rich people end up doing. They do weird things because you have all the money in the world, and it doesn't really bring you happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my brother and I. We definitely learned the difference between being rich and living rich through my father.
Mm-hmm.
So he gave up the money. He became very rich. I'd like to try being rich for a little bit because I'm kind of curious, and I do know that money can't buy happiness, but it can buy guitars, and that makes me happy. So there's that. But the why, this is how I was raised. This is what you do. You help people. And doctors, with Western medicine, I don't blame them. They were trained wrong. They went into this to try to help people. Mm-hmm. And drive a Porsche and golf on Wednesdays. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? So I think that for me, I learned that early on. And even I'll tell you this too, it's interesting. And we'll see what people, not that I care what people think, but my family's Jewish. So as we're raised Jewish, my grandparents escaped from Holocaust. My parents were raised pretty Orthodox, not totally because, we bacon, yay, bacon. And all that kind of stuff. But we came from something very intense. And we went to a temple when I was younger it was a Chabad. It was very orthodox and intense. But the thing was, my rabbi answered all of our questions with things that made sense to us. And in the Jewish religion, we didn't talk about sins. It was more about mitzvahs, the good deeds you're supposed to do in your life. I'm not here to just enjoy my own experience. I'm here to be with people as well. Nature does nothing in isolation. This is part of our journey is how do we get along with each other and navigate this? We're not supposed to be the monk on the hill by ourselves forever. So that was it for me, was watching my dad help people, watching him get attacked for helping people, very interesting. But this, Abe, I think is what we're supposed to do. We're all in this together. So why do I do what I do? When I tell you some of the things that I know, you will never think the same again. It's the red pill of sorts. You can't unhear these things. And what we say, if you read my dad's holographic blood book, we are educating you and empowering you to take charge of your healthcare. Chronic disease, I remember as a kid looking up a list of chronic disease in the encyclopedia. Remember those books, right? And Dad had worked with every single one of those chronic diseases and was getting results. Actually not every single one. ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, we didn't work with very much because by the time people are diagnosed, they usually go downhill so quick. Where we were typically the last resort. So you're dying, you're going to everyone, and you're going to everyone, and you're losing your money, and then you do the crazy thing of going to Mexico and see the doctor with the blood. Yeah. So at this point, and there was a loss of a train of thought right there. That's funny.
I tracked you onto a different tangent. You were talking about
all as well,
how the bridge between the work your father did and the love of music, and how those two dovetailed together.
Well, so as I took this tuning fork course. Thank you. And then I came back to the clinic, and I was like, hey, let's look at blood before and after this. We're working with scars. We're injecting them. We're trying to figure out a way to work with scars without injecting. Maybe this will work. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's nice. That's cute. Go play with your tuning forks. I was like, okay. So I went to play with my tuning forks and my guitar and all that stuff. And a year later, my brother said, I've been learning about these tuning forks. Like, oh, really? I said, it's nice when you listen to me. I would love it if you listened to me and heard me when I spoke to you instead of hearing me a year later. We're brothers, right?
Yeah. I know that one well.
But it's, for me, at this point, we educate and empower people. Josh and I are not doctors. Dad wasn't treating people. He was just consulting. So we look at the blood, we see what's going on, and then we tell you, we've seen, the wording we used to have to use. We have seen other people in similar circumstances get results with this type of therapy. And even in the States, when Dad had his last clinic that was shut down, you sign, he's not a doctor. You stick your own damn finger, so he's not assaulting you. Then he looks at your blood, says, here's what I think, okay? And if you're interested, there's a nurse here and another doctor, and they can do those things for you. Okay, but if you're not interested, who cares? So he didn't touch you, he didn't treat you or nothing, right? He just consulted.
No advice there.
It's, yeah, but it was a funny one because, what we did though was we support local practitioners. Josh and I, we still do consultations. People send their blood to us. We send you the slide kit with instructions. You stick your finger, get the blood back to us within 24 to 36 hours, and we can do the consultation. We create a report. We've got Fiona who'll get on and explain everything to you, answer your questions. You get pictures, explanations of how they're pieces to your puzzle and how they fit together. And then there's some guidance. So at that point, the idea is, and then you'll talk to me. I'll get on with you, and I have links and tips and tricks and people potentially to refer you to. But then you got to find the person. So if you need body work, if you need scar treatment, if you need stuff like this, you find your local person. So what we're doing, I feel, is really symbiotic. We're supporting the local people. We're trying to put together a network. I'm here in Mexico. I've got local practitioners. It's awesome. They're thrilled. So we educate you. You got to do your part. You got to go to the person, see if they're the right person. There's another thing.
Healing has shown to have little efficacy if one doesn't participate in their own well-being.
Oh yeah, definitely. Dad would say, people would say to him, fix me, doc. And he'd say, no. You've been a part of the problem. You got to be a part of the solution. And this was, no one gets you sick, the contagion experience, and no one makes you healthy. We can support your body and it can do amazing things. And dude, the system is totally backwards. Okay, on purpose or not, whatever. Josh and I try not to get into the conspiracy thing anymore because they're very interesting until they happen to you, right? So at this point though, learning how the body truly works. Go ahead.
Rather focus on the aspect of conspiracy in its root meaning, which is to breathe together.
I
So
remember. I think we talked about this at the fire. Yeah.
if we breathe together, then we're building up sympathetic resonance to support better outcomes.
Well, and
Great.
what's important now too at this day and age is we're figuring out the language. We're finally really learning to communicate what they've done. Words are power. What they've done with certain words, the virus. You know what I mean? It's crazy, dude, because we're just teaching now about isopathic remedies with Dr. Marizel Arce. And these are some of the remedies Dad used. They were bacterias, live bacterials and fungals, right? And if you look up definition, one definition says they're viruses. So we're actually treating people with viruses. Ooh, scary, huh? But the terminology, what we've talked about, conspiracies, things like this. If nothing else, Josh and I, Josh won't be on certain podcasts, depending on, because he really just wants to focus on health, terrain, in relation to the earth, and farming, and solutions, as opposed to whining about what they've done to us and all this crap, right?
Yeah.
So the reality is, though, I believe that part of pandemic, not to focus on this, was because of people like us, what my dad did. Because when my dad wrote a book called Doctors Are More Harmful Than Germs, you listen to Andy Kaufman, you don't need to go to the hospital or the doctor for as many things as you've been taught. We can take care of ourselves beyond awesome.
Another powerful word, agency.
Yeah. Yes. And the thing is this, dude, they made doctors heroes over the last 4 years, and they are not. All right. They try paramedics. Those are heroes. If you're falling apart, they sew you back together. Trauma surgeons, awesome. The nurses who hold your hand, while the doctor looks at your damn clipboard and doesn't seem to care so much. And for a doctor.
Yeah. The nurses are often the ones who are advocating for the patients and really the ones who catch the horrendous possibility of drug interactions, for instance. I mean, my mom was a nurse for 40 years. She taught at college level nursing.
Nice.
And that was one of the things that came up time and time again was the nurses were the ones who were really doing the work of advocating for the patient. So the doctor didn't, because the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. And so you have all of these
totally
interactions.
Yeah, I think it's neat. I met a nurse once. She was, when we were in Lake Tahoe, the hospital in Truckee was officially a no Reiki zone.
Wait.
Don't do it. Are you doing Reiki? I can see you doing it right now, aren't you?
A no Reiki zone.
Yeah, right. And then the hospital in Reno, though, the nurses were all doing Reiki, and the doctors had no idea. The one nurse asked the head nurse, she said, "Can I do this?" And she said, "Look, you don't touch the person. They don't know, and I've seen some things. You do what you do." So you got nurses doing Reiki covertly on patients. Awesome, right? So either way, with what goes on these days, my dad said he did articles about don't call me alternative because the word alternative makes you think I'm secondary. Right? He also said I'm not Eastern or Western. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is not about an us and them thing. I know the schooling thing is very interesting because pre-Rockefeller and Carnegie, all the schools were osteopathic. And I promote the hell out of osteopaths. Are you guys listening?
It really works. I've certainly had some profound change for myself in that field.
Dude, they're miracles. And my dad would say miracles only happen when you know what you're doing. But my dad cured cancer. He cured a lot of it. And the emotional component, he said his conclusion with chronic disease was it was 1,000% triggered emotionally.
Yeah. And
his lung cancer patients, grief, right? This is Chinese medicine. His liver cancer patients, anger.
Yeah, and in Ayurveda.
Yeah, right. And the toughest one, he said, was the pancreatic cancer, and that was self-worth. These are interesting patterns. And my dad's hero was Sherlock Holmes. He considered himself a medical detective, right? If we told the judge that's what MD stood for, it might have been a different court case. But he looked for clues, and he looked for patterns. And we saw patterns over decades. And
just to highlight it for the audience, something of great importance in patterns. What are patterns? Patterns in the sense of this outcomes of health are habituated processes that occur over time in our lives. And those habituated processes often can be found readily in our habituated stories that we tell ourselves about the experience we're having in life.
We're creatures of habit. You know, and one thing that I think one of our biggest issues is we're not as conscious and present as we think we are. You know, and when I look at your blood, you become very present. You become very
Mhm.
conscious of what's going on in your body. You know, and the thing is, we can't help everybody. You know, if you don't believe you can get better, there's nothing we can do for you. You know, if you put that on
Mhm.
us, if you can't let go of your stuff, you know, we had results with so many things that people didn't have results with. That doesn't mean we saved everybody. You
Mhm.
know, there was a time Dad said this that if he couldn't help you survive and live, he could help you to die like a king. You know? So you've been stage 4 cancer, and you've been to everybody and everybody. There's no more money. You get weak and you get tired in the body, and then you come see my dad. You know, we used to say we get the train wreck cases, and one of the last
Mhm.
people that came to my dad's clinic was actually hit by a train. Dude, when the body's that broken, what do you do? Right?
Mhm.
But the real thing is the body never ceases to amaze me. Okay. Structure is something that Dad said he never learned about in medical school. You had to go for 2 more years to become the osteopath, right? And how many times we've seen people that have kidney issues, heart issues, they've been to all the specialists around the world, and we look at the blood and we see the structure is out of alignment, putting pressure on the kidney, putting pressure on the heart, right? My friend with the heart palpitations the one day freaking out. And we call my dad. He says, "Oh, yeah, I know him. He's a golfer." Yeah. Have him take off his shirt and look at his nipples. When was the last time you asked one of your friends to do that? Hey, take off your shirt, look at your nipples.
All the time, buddy.
Yeah. So we do this, my friend, and they're totally cockeyed. He's asymmetrical, you know. Dad's like,
Yeah.
he swings every day, you know, in this way, and he threw his chest out. So we send him to the osteopath, aligns him. He's got no more heart palpitations. You know how many
Mhm.
people with heart palpitations get pacemakers and open heart surgery and all this stuff?
Mhm.
It's been bass backwards. And like I said, whether they plan,
Statins.
yeah. Well, there's, you know,
Yeah.
Western medicine, you know, there's some trying, which is one thing. You know, like I said, doctors, their hands are tied. There's only so much they're allowed to do. They're more or less
Mhm.
technicians, right?
Mhm.
Mexico, Dad was allowed to do some different things and see different results, which was awesome. You know, is this what went on with Germany with the doctors that my dad learned from? Were they really experimenting on people and learning some interesting things
Mhm.
in some horrible ways, you know? But as my dad did this whole thing and we learned about the body, structure. So think of this. Think of this. This one's a fun one. Bones. Bones break, right? But bones are actually soft tissue.
Mhm.
Okay. If you think about the wishbone, right? Thanksgiving time or whatever, you get the wishbone from the turkey, and you got to wait till it dries out before you can break it.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, here's the thing, just knowing that, when your subconscious starts to say soft tissue, not rigid, the less rigid we are, the less apt we are to break.
Mhm.
Those car accidents with the drunk person and the person who's not drunk, and the person who's not drunk gets damaged, right? And the drunk driver is, they're
Mhm.
loose, right? They're not totally there, so they absorb things
Yeah.
differently. This is
Yeah.
important. I do my Qigong and I think flexible, you know, and the reality is with this in my mind, if something happens to my arm, it's less likely to break. I fell on my thumb at a concert and I hurt it, but I know it's soft tissue. So
Mhm.
being less rigid in my thinking, knowing that I'm not as rigid as we've been taught, could my thumb have been hurt more if I didn't think this way? Right? This is what we do. I tell you this now, and you're going to think about this. The next time you fall, there's that moment of, oh shit, I broke my arm. Or there's that moment of, oh, I'm soft tissue. Oh, interesting. It
I,
hurts.
I may be an anomaly, but I've thought that way and lived that way for a very long time.
Dude, these are things
Yeah.
I think we know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is what
Yeah.
we do. What my dad used to do is like remind
It,
the body.
yeah. And it also brings to mind a larger, to put it in the context of a larger group of people, there's an underlying issue that many people have a very poor relationship with the water. And that seems to be that the body is not using their water efficiently. And that has an aspect of creating brittle tissues and bone.
Sure, definitely. And water is
Mhm.
interesting. You know, I mean, we met Gerald Pollack when we used to live in Washington. Right? We got to
Mhm.
look at his blood, and awesome. And actually, we did. You know, he worked with Dr. Moto, which was great.
Mhm.
And Dr. Moto, what he did with the water, he tried to do with the blood first, and he couldn't do it. So when he found out about our dad's work, he was thrilled because he's trying to show us how emotions affect the water and how we're mostly water, right? We see the emotions in the blood. So the water thing too is interesting because as we talk with people like Gerald Pollack, and even Anna, my girlfriend, I just heard her doing a video talking about how we think things move in the body and we're mostly liquid, but it's not this, runny water like we're used to, the easy water experience like Gerald Pollack talks about.
Yeah.
So in general too, our bodies, that's the thing we can't live without, and sleep, right? I mean,
It's the transmitting utility.
Dude, and there's more to learn with this.
There's a lot there.
And I'm excited about it. With Josh and I, that's the thing too, is, with the microscope we use, it's an older microscope. It's a dark field microscope, and the term dark field is actually owned by the CDC.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to use it. You're not allowed to be a dark field microscopist. Okay.
Yeah. I have a side story on that.
Okay, well, this is why we got in trouble. And the law is ridiculous that they did, to protect people, supposedly. But the reality is they're not going after most of these dark field people because most of them do live blood analysis, nutritional microscopy, which is designed to sell supplements. And the supplement companies are owned by the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a game being played again.
That's an easy tree to look up.
It's a very small tree.
Yeah.
I can go that deep.
Yeah.
But the idea still is understanding and looking at this thing differently. We are a part of nature. Man went wrong when it thought it can improve on nature with the health and the farming. What we've learned about nature is it doesn't need our help. If we let it go. I thought the pandemic was cool. Remember when the beginning of the lockdown, it was like the bison came down to the water in what islands I forgot, but the javelina were like in Barcelona. The deer were back at the beach.
The dolphins.
Yeah, I think they could see clear the Himalayas mountains, and then the Great Lakes were clearing and things like that. So I think we should, as humans, I think 1 month a year, we should not work and just stay with our families. We can go outside. We don't have to lock ourselves in, but let's just let nature do its thing. But if we really look at nature and understand and look at this in a different way, this is what we do. We teach people to look at life through the lenses of the terrain. And the questions are really funny, dude. You'll love this stuff. The water. So as you were talking about water, why don't we absorb what we need to absorb? Some of the water is horrible. I lived in Tijuana. It's not that the water in Mexico is bad, but that water system is not good, right? And we've actually seen people. We had a patient who their neighbor's child died because of the water filtration system they were using. All right. So interesting things that we're learning. Mexico is funny because I drink the water in Mexico all the time. You learn about the song they made during Prohibition about don't drink the water in Mexico because they didn't want all these people coming to Mexico for alcohol.
Yeah.
Right? And that stuff is still the hell out there. But the water here I drink is fine. So why don't we do this, though? With us, we have been eating food with less nutrients in them. We know that, right? A microwave experience was ridiculous. We had learned that the microwave was invented by the Germans during the World War with Nazis, so they could heat the food up and get it to the front lines very quickly, not so they could microwave my relatives. But the story was when the war was over, Russia got the documentation on all that stuff, and then microwaves were illegal in Russia. So we microwave our food. United States, like I said, #1 in cancer, and Mexico, like the lowest.
Which has a serious correspondence with water.
Yes, totally. Dude, we are emotional beings. We are creatures of habit, right? And we're mostly water. And water is the best conductor of vibration frequency, like liquid. You throw something in the water and you see the vibrations and the frequencies.
One might even say that's its purpose.
You know what? We're learning. And I love what we know. And I know a lot. I like to tell people I do not know everything. But I think between us, we have all the answers. If we can have the discussions and if we can observe. I remember asking Barolando once, what is the terrain to you? And he said, it's observing, it's listening, it's being, and that to me is, I appreciate that. What's life about? Eat, breathe, sleep, joy, and connection with people, and eating. I love to eat. I know there are breatharians. You know, my girlfriend actually went for a year without eating. That sounds very boring to me. We got to do the water thing, right? We got to do the water
that's
thing.
another Bearlander thing. Breatharianism I know is possible, and I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I'm not interested. Nothing personal, you know. I love food. This is part of my joy in life, and even that too, as we talk about emotions and things like that. You know, my dad, he had a person interview him that was a patient. He did documentaries, and he was a prostate cancer patient. He said to my dad, "Doc, what do we do? Like, how do we prevent these things?" And Dad said, "Well," he said, "the thing that will change your blood quicker than anything, and your pH quicker than anything, which is a big deal with the terrain of the body," he said, "is joy." You know, and he was very serious about this. We need to get joy in our lives. Every day, 10 minutes of joy. He would write that on a prescription pad.
I love it.
He would.
Yeah.
It's important to us, and it feeds the biofield. You know, and dude, the fear doesn't, this is fight or flight. This is the most basic experience of health. Sympathetic or parasympathetic. If you're afraid, you're not going to heal, right?
You're also not going to have good cognition because of the amygdala hijack and all of those things.
Right. And it's a natural thing. You know, just thinking about the rabbit and the coyote, you know, here comes the coyote, the rabbit senses it, and it tenses up, which inhibits the circulation and the respiration, so it can't be detected. And then when the coyote's gone, the rabbit shakes it off. Ducks quack it off. You know, they'll fight with each other and quack it off. And we hold on to that crap. And sometimes it turns into your ulcer or your cancer, depending on what you're holding on to, right? So we need to lighten up. We need to let go of things. We need to understand, in my mind, everyone is doing their best. You know, the stupid U-turn in the middle of traffic, this guy's not trying to be stupid. He's trying to do his best. You know, there's a great line from Bender the Robot from Futurama that I love to throw in where he says, well, some people's best is an idiot. So there's also that. But I really, I appreciate life when it gives us things. I really believe that life happens for us and not to us. You know, there's no coincidences. Things coincide. I think for us, looking at health, it's been very easy to see the patterns of why people have the health problems that they have. You know, to the point where even ridiculous, you know, my brother was having an ear issue because he didn't really want to hear what I was saying.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some profound realizations that could come out of paying attention.
That's it, dude. If we can just stop, you know, and observe ourselves, you know, and I'm fine. You know, what does fine mean? Like fucked up, insecure, neurotic, you know, whatever. There's another word there. You know, if we can swear here, you can edit that out. Otherwise, sorry for my potty mouth for those of you watching. But the idea, cool, thank you. But the idea that, you know, we know ourselves better than anybody, but we lie to ourselves all the time. You know, and this is what's fun with the microscope work. Someone sees me, I pull their blood up on the screen, and they know what it is. You know, and the guy goes, "That's my large prostate." Great. You know, I would have known that. He didn't have to yell it out, you know, in the room, but there's no secrets there. And when you see these images, they resonate with you. You know, people that we don't get as much business as you would expect, for sure. One reason I had to go to Mexico is because I couldn't afford to be in the States. That's why I went to Spain too. It was much cheaper.
Right. Yeah.
You know? So as we look at people's blood, though, are we ready to hear things is one thing. Most people that come to us, by the time they come to us, they're ready to hear what they need to hear.
Because they've gone through a whole journey and process of finding you in the first place. Yeah.
And it's kind of like, you know, people would say this, you know, David Parker and Don Lester, they wrote the book, What Really Makes You Ill. They researched for 10 years doing that book, and they never came across us. You know, it's kind of interesting. It's like if you dig deep enough into the terrain under that last rock, I think is where we are, you know. And it's funny, dude, because I never expected this. You know, pandemic happened and people started to reach out to us for our insight, our opinions, and our perspective. And you know, Dad made noise, and he got slapped. And Josh and I are not here to fight with people. We're not here to make noise. We're here to do this and share this work, you know. And I don't need the Porsche. BMW sounds nice, you know. If I can
at least a car that doesn't break down on the side of the road.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, my family got me the BMW clock, so I got that going for me.
Oh, perfect.
But I appreciate my life. I appreciate people. I want to help people. I need to help myself. You know, the most important thing in my life and your life is us. Me, I'm the most important. Even on the airplane, if you want to put your air mask on, put yours on before the kid. Because if you take the time to put the kids on, well, you might die, and then he has no mom, right, or no dad. So you need to look out for number one. We need to get our joy. We need to honor ourselves. This is not being selfish. But it's interesting how life has been, where we think, if we don't put others first, we're being selfish, And when I look at people's blood, dude, it's I love doing it because the pictures are one thing, but the discussion. And the questions are so funny. Dad and Josh would ask people questions. Okay, so your husband cheated on you. How does that make you feel? Oh, I'm okay with it. Okay, so your husband cheated on you. So how does that feel? Like they'll say the same question twice. And the second time the person just starts crying, right? We're such interesting creatures, dude. Humans, we gather for sunsets, With self-abuse is a wonderful thing for us, right? We lie to ourselves, dude. What's the point? But when you look at the blood, you see those pictures, you know it comes from you. It's like this cool, intimate experience. I've had people cry looking at the blood. You see the microzymas, the symbionts, the little bions, the essence of who you are.
Little crossover. I've had many people cry looking at their own words.
Oh, yeah.
On a page. Similar process.
Yeah, totally. My brother did that. He was journaling for a while, and as a single guy, he went and read his journal, and then he realized why he was single. He's like, "Oh, I'm kind of a grumpy ass, aren't I? That's weird."
Although he did take it one step further than most people. He not only put it in a journal and got it down on paper, but he went back and actually reread it.
Read it, yeah.
Anyway,
it was a funny one. He said, "Yeah, now I know why I'm single. Kind of a grumpy ass, So. Yeah. Looking at ourselves, and I really, I try very hard to walk the walk as much as I talk this talk. And I do my Qigong in the morning, my infrared mat, I do a little bit of seawater each day. I have the barefoot shoes, I do this silly walking exercise when I'm out in public. I have my standing desk, I do all these different things. I try to grow some of my own food, even though I don't really have a backyard, but I'm growing lettuce all around the house, right? Awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm happy, and I'm healthy. And I have stem cells and exosomes and isopathic remedies and cell therapy. Sorry if the guy's noisy outside.
That's good.
And I have the microscope. I have all the stuff, but I don't take that stuff because I don't need to.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this too, what's really neat about what we do, we educate you, we empower you, we have you do things, and then you see the reactions. We look at blood, we would do treatments, and then we see the blood change, but the reality is if you don't feel the change, what's the point? I can tell you your blood looks great, but you still feel like crap. But you do your work.
But that brings up a point that many people will stop in midstream because they don't have immediate effect. Yes. And they're so conditioned to chasing symptomologies that
it's a frustrating one. I'll tell you a story. A person we're working with recently, really interesting case. Okay, cancer in the cheek, which is unusual. All right. If anything is more superficial, Dad said breast cancer, prostate cancer is easy. He actually went on the radio in like 88 or 89 before internet radio and offered 100% guaranteed cure for prostate cancer and breast cancer. And you think he would be you think he'd be famous though, because he's this crazy doctor who claims he can cure cancer, but he was actually doing it, so that's when they started to shut him down.
Yeah.
And here's a pattern. You'll like this one. Here's the patterns, people. Okay. My dad looked at the big picture and he loved history. And he said, first there was the rise in the feminist movement. And then there was the rise in breast cancer. And directly after that was the rise in prostate cancer. He said, women, first of all, wanted to be treated equal like men, and Dad said, which is ridiculous because why would women...
Equal outcome being specifically the type of equality.
Yeah, but Dad said his thing was funny because he said, "Why would you want to lower yourself to the man? Behind every great man, there's a great woman. And women listening, the score here, right? Your job is to make us feel like we did it all, right? So we feel like men."
I wear the pants in this family, and my wife told me I could say so.
Yeah, exactly. Women love Dad. Women have been butchered historically by doctors. You know what I mean? So there was a real thing there. But rise in feminist movement, women losing their femininity. All right. And then men losing their balls, more or less, after that. So, it's a funny thing to say. My dad wanted to be a comedian in the beginning, but my grandma said, "You're a Jewish guy in Brooklyn. You can be a doctor.
You cannot be a doctor."
Yeah, or a lawyer, one of the two, right? So interesting patterns, though, right? And I can't remember right before that, but I was going to say, we can talk about, for a moment, the cancer thing, because cancer is a very real diagnosis. There's a couple things that my dad learned, which I think was very interesting. If we look at the terrain, okay, nature does not attack itself. Like autoimmune disease for us is a bullshit diagnosis. This is something a doctor tells you have when he doesn't know what's going on with you, and he tells you your body is attacking itself. Your body wants you to survive. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, your body is trying to help you survive. Okay. So if you've been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, there is something very real going on. Okay. The Lyme diseases used to be Epstein-Barr, right? They just kind of relabel things. But autoimmune, nature doesn't work that way. So we look at nature. When Dad looked at cancer, there was a point in time he realized when he was trying to fight cancer, he was working against what the body was doing. Then he was trying to understand what the body was doing. And for people listening, there's a couple words I say that no one's ever heard before, which is really cool. Okay, isopathic remedies are interesting, but before that is homotoxicology. There's a chart that talks about the 6 phases of disease, the patterns of disease. All right, it's important. There's people that you guys know that are very well-known people that had not heard this word until I introduced it to them, which is awesome. Not mentioning any names. However, the way disease works, a toxin enters the body, right? The body wants to excrete. So we sweat, we cough, we sneeze, we throw up, we have diarrhea, things like that. That's normal. Right. Next thing that happens is if a toxin enters and we can't excrete it, then inflammation. Inflammation is when things become bacterial in nature. Okay? Now, as this happens, inflammation is not a bad thing. The bacteria come in, actually we create the bacteria in our body to help push things out, to assist in this process. Now, if things can't get out through inflammation, things back up and we become inflamed, all right? And things deposit. The third stage is deposition. And we heard not long ago that Western medicine is trying to eradicate the inflammation gene. Dum, 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 dum. Wasn't that South Park, right? So inflammation is how we heal. If it becomes trapped, deposition, we become inflamed. And it deposits wherever you're weakest. So if you've got a lot of grief, it might go to the lungs. If you got scarring and tissue like that that's damaged, it might go to that area. Then it impregnates into the tissue, then things degenerate and de-differentiate. Okay? That sixth phase is cancers. That's all the cancers. Okay? And in the United States, they say the average American's on 3 to 5 pharmaceuticals. And they also say 1 in 3 Americans are going to get cancer. Well, the way the homotoxicology works is we sweat, gross, antiperspirant. Keeps it in. Now we have acne, right? Gross, so we put on the cream, pushes it deeper. Now we're on 2 pharmaceutical things. Now we've got bronchitis or something else that's in there and it's deposited. Now we got to take another pharmaceutical. Once you pass the inflammation stage,
which all add to the toxic effects through aluminum dioxides, zinc overuse, et cetera, et cetera. So another point.
We've been bombarded with ridiculousness, and it is amazing though. The body can deal with all these vaccinations we were given.
It's amazing.
And the McDonald's and the alcohol and the cigarettes, right? Our bodies are awesome. If we support it, we can do awesome things, right? But after your inflammation, things become fungal in nature. Now you're starting to mold. Okay, and they studied Egyptian sarcophagi, and they discovered the body decomposes 3 different ways of 3 different molds. One is cardiovascular, one is arthritic, and one is cancerous. All right. The arthritic is normal. That's natural causes. The body gets old. Cancerous and cardiovascular, different ends of the spectrum. So what my dad saw with his cancer patients is they were molding. Cancer, mold, certain pH. We've heard these things before, right? Oxygen. Cancer, disease cannot live in oxygen. But still the question is, why does the person become moldy? Because Mexico cures cancer all the time. Many famous clinics here. But a lot of the times I know many people that have their cancer cured, and 3 years later they have a different type of cancer. They do not have a different type of cancer. It's not different. It's a cancer. You have moldy cheese. You cut the mold out of the cheese. 3 days later, you got mold all over the cheese. All right. And there's definitely patterns to it. Dad's got great videos of talking about the cancer always goes to the bones, never ends up in the lungs. You know, it's kind of interesting how these patterns work. So what he realized, though, is it's a mold. We need to change the pH. All of his cancer patients, and this confuses people, and we did a webinar with Bear Orlando about it, and this guy in Portugal, Artur Sala, the pH. All of my dad's cancer patients, their blood was high alkaline. Now, interesting, because we hear alkaline diet and all this stuff. But the cells become alkaline, they dump acidic waste into the terrain, then the terrain becomes acidic. All right. But what my dad realized is all his cancer patients, high blood alkalinity, 7.55 higher. If he could get the pH down,
really up
7.4, yeah. If he could get it down to 7.4, cancer would die all over the body. 7.35. All right. But still the question is, why was the cancer there? It's a mold. Okay. The people that are getting the cancers, look at the pattern with the breast cancer, the prostate cancer, women losing their femininity. I had a friend I used to teach with, breast cancer. Dad says to her, I can get rid of it in 8 weeks, right? And it took him 9. And all the teachers, all the teachers were like, it's a miracle. And she was pissed. She says, not a miracle. It's good science. This is good science. Damn it. So what happened was this, breast cancer. And she looks at the blood and, well, talking to the person, because you got to get to know the person, the terrain. Doctors used to do house calls. They used to see your terrain, right? So the husband's out of work and he's just sitting home all day watching soap operas and Oprah. And Dad said, I need to talk to your husband. Bring him in. And Dad said, get the hell off your ass and be the man. She's doing both jobs here and she's losing it.
Back to that roles are powerful thing.
Dude, we come from somewhere. If we look at nature, you know, lions, you know, and monkeys and tigers and all these things, there's a dynamic there that we can't fight. And if we do, watch the health issues that are going to come up over the next bunch of years as we're denying who we really are and people think they were born in the wrong space and things. I mean, some very interesting health issues. You know, be happy with
fundamental psychosexual roles are very powerful in our way of being and thinking.
Cancers directly related to this. You know, there was a very famous, so this story with this woman, though, the guy got the job, got off his ass, cancer went away, took care of it, right? With the treatments and all that stuff. So years later, story was he lost his job again, went back to the couch, she died. Cancer came back. All right. Another story, very famous jazz musician, jazz flute player, came to see Dad, and Dad, prostate cancer. And Dad says, your wife has your balls, your testicles. You need to take them back. She was this big woman, shaved head. She was the manly one there. And he said to my dad, he said, I can't. And my dad said, I can't help you. And he died a month later. You know, so these are, and Josh and I, we're really funny. You know, we're really upbeat. We have to be because we live in a really intense world. You know? And the reality is, we all need to take things a little easier. And when you take something personally, you make it your own damn problem, right? I say something, you take it personally, it's not my problem. I'm not a jerk, you know, let's not be jerks is one thing. But we need to lighten up. You know, we need to relax, we need to breathe, we need to let things go a little more and not be so sensitive. You know, the sensitive experience is ridiculous these days.
Yeah, well, you can tell somebody that. What inroads have you found that are effective in helping people to come to changing their behavior? Because that's really where the rubber hits the road. I have my own processes which have really been very effective in that. I'm curious what yours have been.
And we've talked about that. We talked about what you got going on at the fire a little bit. Because, you know, we all can use some support. You know, me too. Those that help others could use support. Damn it. Right?
Yeah.
So, good question.
My offer to assist you in that is still standing.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Yeah,
And this is the human experience, which is interesting. Life happens. There's nothing we can do about that. And every day it's going to hit you physically, energetically, emotionally, spiritually. We got to do our part and, do our own physical, energetic, emotional, and spiritual. We're navigating, right? And there's a time and a place. And now we're
dancing.
Yes. And we're together now, which is a good thing. So, yes. And we'll be together at Anarchapulco, which will be even more fun. Yeah.
Yes. Looking forward to that.
So the timing might be better for me. Yes. As I'm grounding. Life is a trip. We got to appreciate it. I mean, that's the thing is when we do what we do, Abe, looking at a drop of blood is one thing. We look at your blood, we look at your history, we get to know you very quickly, right? Very intimately. There's no secrets there. And then it's the conversations, and we would say to people, you can have a traumatic emotional episode and talk to your therapist about it for years, or you can go to the massage therapist and you just start crying on the massage table. Well, we know that emotions get locked in physically, and that the massage therapist is helping you to physically release the emotions. So scars, we see emotions locked into scars. The belly button's our birth scar. We do a lot of stuff with the belly button. And the thing is this, we have our habits and our patterns, and we're emotional beings. So we get stuck in certain spots. When we're born, we come into this world more or less ready. In the United States, the birthing process is horrible. There's a book called Birth Without Violence. Like you're born into fear, basically, right? But your body's ready to do its thing as long as it comes out the right way. But then life happens to us, right? And we change. We can learn a lot about walking or structure and things like this from babies, how they get off the ground, and things like that. But we lose things because of what happens with us with life. But we remember these things. We have this, cellular memory, the morphogenetic fields. The first rat did the whole maze, the second one half the maze. Yeah. So we're a part of this too. So when we look at the blood, the conversation is one thing. And it's the conversation that people need to have. They look at themselves. We can see it. They can deny it or not. But then there's the question of knowing that we need support. There's only so much you can do on your own. So, then you get to this person, a body worker, someone that we can't adjust ourselves all the time. We can't work with our own scars. So we get to someone and we put ourselves in their hands and we understand what's going to happen. And then things start to shift. And the reality of people, when we do scar treatments with people and aligning bodies and taking pressure off things, then emotional things come up. And we're there for that conversation. This past year, if you would come to our clinic, when our clinics were open, we'd look at your blood. My dad would be there. He's awesome, right? We'd have the body workers, the scar treatments. We had a hyperbaric. We didn't have a lot. Body worker, osteopath, scar treatment, hyperbaric, teeny bit of ozone, but not really so much. And the isopathic remedies, some cell therapy. That was it. So we'd look at your blood, we'd get an idea, we'd talk to you about it, you'd cry, everyone freaks out, oh my God. We'd get you on the table, we'd do the treatment, you feel change, wow, awesome. Then you look at your blood again, and your blood changes. And you feel, you know better. You've been
direct experiential evidence.
Yeah,
also.
And you feel empowered. And then dad gives you your homework. You're going to go do Qigong every day. You're going to go eat that damn steak and stop your stupid diet, or have yourself a milkshake. Not a milkshake every day, not a steak every day, whatever the point is, treat yourself, listen to yourself. Don't just do the diet because your friend told you, or your wife doesn't want you so fat, and things like this. You get your damn joy and you feel good about yourself and you start to really see the eyes open, and at that point, it's very rare that someone comes through our process and doesn't go, oh my God, doesn't open those eyes. Now, these days, though, we don't have a clinic. Josh and I aren't doctors. So you can come to me. I'm a technician. I take the blood. I get the pictures to my brother. He'll create the report, and then I'll explain everything to you. Same thing in the States. Fiona will explain it to you. But then a week later, you're on with me because I want to say, all right, you got any more questions? Do you know what your homework is? Are you setting up your appointments? Because nothing's going to change unless you do your damn homework. But I'm your cheerleader. I'm there to support you, motivate you, and encourage you. Because
Where's
I
your
know.
pom-poms, buddy?
Yeah. Yep. Not going to show you my miniskirt. So meanwhile, the person. Yeah, yeah. And that's another story with my dad, which is funny. My dad's older brother, my dad, when he was very young in Brooklyn, New York, was like 5'6", right? And he wanted to be on the football team in high school. They wouldn't let him try out. You got big inner city guys that are going to stomp on this little guy. And they let him try out when he was a junior, and he became the captain of the football team, right? And his older brother was the captain of the cheerleading squad. Got along real well on that one, right?
Amazing.
But as we talk to people, though, so now you talk with me, and I want to support you. I know the resources that we had in our clinic, they're out there somewhere, and I'll help you find them. You may have to travel. You may have to come to visit me in Mexico. Tacos are great. Practitioners are a little cheaper, So I do this with people, and the conversations, Abe, are hilarious. All right. So I have their history form. Here's all your main concerns. I have their blood, right? I talk to them, and I talked to them for 3 months, once a month for 3 months. We can do 3 or 6 months or a 12-month package if you want, no pressure. But you talk to me, I get you to go to the damn person. You go to the person afterwards. How was it? Well, it was okay. I felt relaxed. Anything changed? No, not really. Okay, so let me look at the history form. How's your neck? Oh yeah, actually my neck's a little better. And your digestion? Oh yeah. Yeah, actually my digestion's better too. And you sleeping any better? Huh. Yeah, actually, now that you mention it. So I can't tell you how many conversations I have with people who say nothing has changed. And then by the end of that conversation, they realized everything has changed.
Mm-hmm.
People, come on. Are we conscious?
Well, it's about attuning yourself to actually attend and be present with what is happening. And many people are so disconnected from observing their own actions, behaviors, and body embodiment.
Oh yeah.
That they don't know what their body meant.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so funny how many times I look for my glasses and they're on my head, right?
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy the process. I like people. I think we're all trying to do our best. So there's that. I'm doing my best to practice non-judgment,
Mm-hmm.
Not very easy. David Parker said at one of our webinars was great. We want to do a meme. He said, sometimes being judgmental can be very therapeutic. So there's that.
Yeah.
But I really, I like leading by example. I like knowing that we can be healthier, and it's so interesting. All these little things, the couple whose baby was born with the hole in the heart, and this is the Down syndrome experience. And, it's like the friends are like, oh, your poor baby. It's like the baby's not broken, and the baby's here to do something and for a reason. And you know what? If we're inside the womb and everything's developing and we come out and we continue to grow, why can't that baby's heart continue to grow?
Mm-hmm.
And we're working on this, dude. And I believe these things. The things we've seen, Abe, I love this stuff. The farmers, the regenerative farmers get it more than they know. Okay. We've done a few webinars with Alan Williams, and he was like in the Kiss the Ground movies and stuff like that. Superheroes. When you look at the body the same way as the earth, things change. So we had a student in Australia, and her daughter jumps in the pool, knocks her front teeth out. Okay. 2 front teeth. I forgot the age of the daughter, young, right? So they run to the dentist, and here's the teeth. Someone went to the bottom of the pool and got the teeth. Blech. So they go to the dentist, and the dentist says, oh, okay, yeah, antibiotics. We need to kill everything that's right there, and we're going to put in fake teeth. And the woman's heard us talk about the relationship with teeth and the rest of the body because of all the acupuncture meridians that run through the teeth and the lymphatics and all this stuff, right? So he says, yeah, we're going to kill everything and do this and blah, blah, blah. And she says, well, she works with goats. She's got a farm. And she did something with the goat's teeth with this little tea bag she made with some camphor and something else, and to promote the microbiology experience, right? And she said, can't we just put the roots back in and like wire them, and won't they reroot? And he says, no, they're not going to do that. That's just stupid. And she says, I think they will. And he says, well, they're not going to do that. And she says, just do it. Just do it. And he says, but they're going to die. You're going to have to come back to me. And she says, good, then you get more money. But in her mind, she put the damn teeth back in the soil, in the terrain.
Yeah.
She did the same thing she did with the goats to promote what's going on, and the teeth rerouted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Teeth are fine.
And Barry even talks about experiences he's had with people having teeth rebud.
This is one I'm on. I'm curious. I
Hmm.
have people that are curious that want to do this, right? I know people that I got one friend who's got two friends that fingers are growing back, you
Hmm.
know. And my girlfriend said, "Well, there's a stalk there, so it can continue to grow. With the teeth, we get a couple, you know." And then she said, "If there's a seed, you know, so it's like, oh, there's what you're talking about."
And a morphogenetic field that's strong enough to assist that process.
Dude,
I
I
could see that
believe.
being totally feasible.
Yeah, I believe. And, you know, and even to the point where Dad said he used to tell us that he had read studies of developmentally disabled amputees. So the cognitive experience isn't quite making all the connections, and they have lost the arm, but they would keep having to refit the prosthetic limb because the limb was growing back until they told the person they couldn't do that.
Yeah, the nocebo. It's a
Right.
powerful thing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I get chills with this, dude. When that
Yeah.
girl knocked out her teeth, and we were telling the story, as my mom came in and she said, "You call that woman in Australia, and you make sure no one tells that girl she can't do that." I was like, "Oh,
Hmm.
good, yeah, good thinking." So,
Hmm.
dude, this is it. You know, thinking about the terrain, we're a part of nature. You know, we can learn from it. When man thinks we're separate from it, we're not separate from it. Okay, if we look at nature, we can learn a lot. You know, if we pay attention to where we're at, you know, the terrain experience for us is your disease or disease, sickness, illness can be something physical that's going on, putting pressure on the system, right? It can be something energetic. That could be the lights, that could be the people in your environment, right? The
Hmm.
job that you hate, all that kind of stuff. The words are power. My dad talks about this in his books, you know. He's a pain in my neck, and then they get a pain in the neck,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Job is
Yeah.
killing me, right? Things like this, you know, I'm
Hmm.
dying to do this, you
And
know.
they say it to themselves all the time. I wanted
Yeah.
to highlight something that you said earlier, which is right in line with what you just said, and that is that that distinction, which I invite everybody to play with in their own lives, between the sentence "life happened to me."
Yeah,
Try taking out that "to" and putting in "for."
right.
Life happened for me,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, uh, great things can happen from those simple translations in our perception of what's happening.
It helps me in the midst of life when something bizarre happens,
Hmm.
you know, as opposed to why me? You know, it's like, okay, life is happening for me right now. And then
Hmm.
I can just be present with that for a moment to observe and see what I observe. You know,
I had a client real quick who had, because I do a kind of a and lifted, it's just uh, furtherance of kind of narrative therapy. And she had, we write on a shared document, on Zoom or whatever. And she had written all of these, I can't believe this. I can't believe that. And blah, 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 blah. Like a whole slew of them. And I'm like, did this happen? Well, yeah. Did this happen? Well, yeah, it happened. That's why I wrote it down. This, all of them were, yeah, that happened. And I said, so why can't you believe it if you know that it happened? And it went,
yeah.
boom.
Yeah, which is good. Sometimes it goes, well, I told you I can't believe it. You know, I really
That's the
like,
willingness to participate, right?
well, and like I said, to me, you know, I like people. We're all trying to do our best, good, bad, and ugly. It's a part of the experience. I'm always interested in what people have been through to get to me.
Hmm.
Running into you at the campfire late at night is cool because the first time was just the two of us. I was like, okay, I guess we're the only vampires around right now. So got a vampire friend. But if you listen to people, and when I taught elementary school, I learned a lot about listening to
Mhm.
kids. You realize that most people don't listen. You'll like this one. This one's fun, people.
Least of all to themselves.
Oh yeah, definitely not to themselves. But the
Yeah.
conversation thing is this is fun. Here's an experiment. I probably did this in Music and Sky at the campfire late at night. Definitely did this actually. So people talk at you, right? We want to have these interactive conversations, and I love what I have to share with people. So I love doing these things. Like I appreciate you bringing me on to talk
Hmm.
because I can't talk about this with everybody. You know, I mean, my uncle doesn't want to hear about it. He thinks we're snake oil salesmen. I got a friend that's still walking with a cane probably, and we could have helped him. We used to snowboard with him. You know, he hurts himself and he knew us. And then it was like, hey, you want to come over and watch a movie? And I was like, no, I'm going snowboarding. You know, which you could have done too if you would have been interested, what I have to say.
Yeah.
But not everyone's interested, you know, so I appreciate being able to share this stuff here. It's about generating a little bit of awareness. And it is funny, though, in the midst of conversation, when I realized there was a great song about this, MC 900 Foot Jesus, and he realizes.
Oh, right. I forgot about him. Excellent.
Nice. Yeah.
Good reference.
He says he's talking about it at a party, and you realize the person starts to check out, you know, and the eyes glaze over, and that's when he kicks it into high gear, and he kind of moves forward and gets him in the corner, makes him real uncomfortable. But I talk to people, and it's funny because I'm a music teacher. You know, you don't have to listen to me. You can listen to a doctor if you want. I don't care. Well, you're not a doctor. Great. I don't want to be a doctor. So in the midst of conversation, realizing someone's not listening, and I can talk at them and talk to them, and then tell them I had sex with their mother, and then continue to talk, and they didn't even hear me say that I had sex with their mother. You know, try that next party you're at, people. Are people present and conscious and aware, or not? I try. I think we do try, but you know what? At the same time, it's a strange world, and we build our little happy bubbles, which I think is fine. You know, my recording studio, I call it my happy bubble. But part of my goal is to expand my bubble and to invite people in to my bubble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To share the joy and things like that. But I love it. People are so funny, dude. You know, misery loves company, and here comes Happy Adam. Well, I don't know how to hang out with Happy Adam because he's too. What the hell are you so happy about? Do you ever get your friends jump on that?
Yeah, well, I often describe it in a similar way, and that is that I'm in my own resonance, my own pattern, creating a bubble, and that bubble creates a pressure differential. To put it in, like, to couch it in kind of thermodynamics or something of that nature.
Sure.
That pressure differential allows people to want to step into it, to find kind of an equalizing capacitance with their own field.
Totally.
So,
I support this. This is law of attraction in action. You know, my brother and I lectured on the law of attraction cruise, and we thought it was a singles cruise, but it wasn't. Law of attraction.
What, to your disappointment, or?
Yeah, we were single. But law of attraction, you know, we vibrate at a frequency, and our frequency changes all the time. But you see things like there's the BioL device that shows you the biofield. You know, and it's cool because, like, my biofield, look at me. When I'm talking, you can tell I'm excited about this. You know, I don't sleep a ton. I enjoy life. And my life is not the easiest life. You know, my dad was a pioneer. He got attacked for helping people. Dude, I got idiots using microscopes now that are getting famous that have no idea what they're talking about. You know, and I'm over here going, hey, no one, you know, people, not everyone's interested in this stuff. People are interested in their own crap. You know, so my life is not totally easy. But, and I get the damn.
And
you got it, not the but.
Yeah.
And add on to that. I'm learning, right?
Yeah.
All a work in progress. But the thing is this, the biofield is important. You know, someone recently hit me up as she does jujitsu, and she's concerned about people that were vaccinated, you know, and they're sweating and they're all on top of each other and things. And I said, look, when you're doing that jujitsu, your biofield is as strong as ever. You are more impermeable at that point.
And if it's not, you're not going to do very well at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, right. Well, and dude, I did one little mini experiment, and I can call it an experiment because at least my research girlfriend told me how to do some things. Right? We're all scientists as far as we think. But and once again, I'm learning.
Empiricists.
I'm looking for patterns. I'm curious. You know, I'm like my dad. I want to see, and I'm skeptical. I want to see for myself. I'm not the jerk skeptic. I want to see for myself, which is fine. So beginning of the pandemic, locked in with my mom and my brother and sister at my mom's house, which was nice. Better than being locked down in Spain, because Spain was a horrible place at that point. But being locked down, and I did an experiment where I took 3 drops of my blood, and I put 1 drop right on the router, right on that Wi-Fi router, right? And I put a 2nd drop in tinfoil right on top of the router. And I put a 3rd drop a couple rooms away. And I left it sit there for 24 hours. Then I looked at all 3 drops again. And there was no difference. That's strange. Right on the router. This is my blood. We know that these frequencies affect us. So I did it again with my mom.
They have a tendency to affect us.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's vibration and frequency all around us. Everything, all matter, vibrating at different frequencies. So it's this dance of the electrons, is what Anna would say. So either way, I took my mom's blood, okay, and looked at hers. And there was definitely a difference. Well, what's the difference between my mom and I? At that point, she was a little under the weather. She actually did go to the hospital during COVID. And she came out, regardless of what they tried to do to her there. So yay, and 80 years old, so right, awesome. But my blood was fine. Hers was different, okay? She's a little older. She doesn't do the homework like I'm doing. My biofield is, so I'm much more impermeable than she is. For people that are afraid of these things, the 5G experience, all these things affect us, all right? The thing is not to be afraid of it, to be aware of it, and know what to do about it. We can't take it all down, obviously, although I do appreciate those people who have been destroying 5G towers. Yay! Not that I'm promoting that. However, it's about understanding it, and for me, the more I feed my vibration, the less I'm affected by that. And dude, the concerts for me, like this was my biggest, my biggest fear during pandemic was I'm never going to get to see a concert again.
Oh, I had friends who went and engaged in certain medical practices simply because they wanted to be able to go out and see live music.
Oh, dude. This makes me angry. Okay, here's this one, guys. I'm a musician, all right? Remember Rage Against the Machine, right? Down with the System? Yeah. And the guitar player was playing for Bruce Springsteen, who's doing vaccinated-only concerts. So Rage Against the Machine, at least for the guitar player, right? Go America, yeah, USA, vaccinate yourself, Rage Against the Machine. Well,
I support people to engage in whatever they feel is appropriate for them. That doesn't mean I agree with it, and certainly yes.
Don't impose it upon me, right? Exactly. So I at this point too, it's fun what we do. When I did that experiment with the router, that was kind of neat for me. I do my homework. I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. As my dad would say, I've never seen the Messiah's blood. There's always something in the blood. The only time, and this is interesting actually, there are times when we see nothing in the blood. Usually when people are on a bunch of pharmaceuticals because they feel nothing. So we see
Zoloft and things of that nature.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah. And then the other one was if they've checked out. We looked at a woman's blood in Seattle the day that Trump was elected for the first election, right? When he was president the first time. And she had worked on Hillary's campaign. So we looked at her blood and there was nothing there. She was in shock. She was in total shock. Like, she was one of these people that was like, I can't believe this happened. She was afraid they're going to push, someone's going to bomb us right now because Trump just got elected. So we told her to go home and drink some tea and relax and come back next week. And we looked at her blood again and it was different. So there's always something though, dude. We have always got something to work on,
Yeah, the word that keeps coming to my mind is developing coherence. Yeah.
That's, dude, the C word. To me, that's the word at the moment. It's coherent within ourselves, coherent with the earth, coherent with each other, symbiotic. We're all here together. And, the irony of the pandemic experience was bizarre for me. My dad, if he was alive, he probably would have gone to jail. He might have died of a broken heart because he saw what the earth had fallen, victim to, ridiculousness. But for me, I realized that we need to support people, which is fine as long as they're not imposing upon us. Like I said, I would love to live in a world with less stupidity and ignorance. And we saw something where a lot of people lined up to remove themselves, self-eliminate from this experience. I appreciate on a bigger scale the soul that comes in to sacrifice itself so that others can elevate. I have friends that are not here anymore, and that sucks. I would much rather have them here. But I appreciate all of what's going on.
It's happening for you.
It is, dude. It really is. Yeah. And it's so ironic Okay? It's so ironic, dude, that we, Josh and I, with this work of my dad, we're trying to protect the legacy and make sure no one, as Josh had said, like no one bastardizes this work. I don't know a better way to say it. Like no one takes this work and distorts it, so we don't teach people really. We're very selective of who we work with. And that we saw over the last couple of years is people have taken this work and distorted it. All this hydrogel and the graphene and all that stuff that people think they're seeing, not happening. Not happening. Right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, and I did my dude. We did webinars. I did one with Alex Zeck with my girlfriend, which was great.
Yeah.
Because my girlfriend worked in a nanobiotechnology laboratory. Okay.
Has a real solid foundation in the actuality of it.
Dude, and
Excellent.
all these people talking about this stuff, not any single one of them has had experience with nanobiotechnology. Right? So she knows. And the images that you've seen, the microscopy people sharing these days, okay, I've seen those images for decades. They're so wrong. But you know what?
Yeah.
People don't want to listen to me. Kaufman said this. I sent them a video. We busted some stuff. I worked with Children's Health Defense, and I analyzed the Pfizer vaccine. And I saw stuff, and I busted them, and they didn't want to hear it. And even Kaufman said, he said, you're right. No one's going to want to hear it. So at this point, yeah, my life is a trip. I love what we do. I'm so thrilled to be able to share information with the people that are ready for it, that ask me for it,
Bingo.
And,
the people who are ready for it. You can only speak to the listening.
Yeah. It's been a trip though, dude, like observing myself. Okay. Here comes somebody who says, hey, look at this, it's graphene. And I'm like, no, it's not. And then they're making money and they've got people, and I can't unsubscribe from their emails, which is a trip. And I get people emailing me say, hey, I got graphene in my blood, and it's like, what do we do? Okay. I ignore it because those people don't want to hear that crap. The people that they want to hear from me. They hear.
Well, it's a presupposed story that they've identified with. And often if you have to want to dig into what you identify with in order to really see its validity and its accuracy within your own story.
Well, and it's crazy because, I'm obviously, Brendan Murphy said this to me once. He said, dude, you're the only guy who's saying this, and we need your voice. Someone has to say it. If you don't say it, no one is saying it. So I say things. My brother shuts me up, and then I have TMJ because I can't say what I want to say, right? Which is an interesting experience. But in my personal thing, it's like, look, here comes ridiculousness. I can give it attention, or I can move forward, and do my thing. So, and Josh is good with this, my brother. Here comes, people want to know COVID and this. It's like, you know what? We're done with this. You want to know? Go watch End of COVID.
Yeah.
We want to talk about solutions. We're moving forward. We're done with this thing, But for some reason, this live blood thing keeps coming up in my face. There's something there. And I'll tell you this too, because you'll see this in Anarchapulco. I was just interviewed yesterday by Miranda, so they could share that for Anarchapulco, which I enjoy. It's a great experience. And there will be someone there doing live blood analysis. And I said, that's too bad. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess you can edit that out if you want to, But then I had to say behind the scenes and stuff, it's like, who invited this person, by the way? Because you do know I'm going to be on stage saying that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So, and by the way, I have a concern with people wasting their money. Okay. I just talked to someone yesterday for almost 2 hours. Do you know this one? You know this one, Abe. It's much easier to learn than it is to unlearn.
Yeah.
So you pay your $50 for your live blood analysis, and now I got to talk to you for 2 hours to tell you how stupid that was.
Yeah.
Right? So we're going to be in Anarchapulco with a bunch of crypto people, right? Who got some money. We're going to go, oh, look, live blood analysis. Yay, let's look at the blood. And I don't know how to say, do I stand by the booth and go, hey, don't waste your money? Hey, no, don't waste your money. Do I email this woman and say, hey, by the way, I'm going to be in Acapulco. Have you ever seen my work? You might want to.
Free will a bitch.
Yeah, that's where it was a galaxy.
Lost you.
Still there?
Lost you for a second. Yeah, you're back.
I think it was George Carlin that said, of course God had free will, or God has a sense of humor because he gave us free will.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is my personal navigation.
Well, there's a lot of things in that space, and that's one of the benefits of going to things like this is to have a forum of sorts where opposing ideas can actually be aired in usually a fairly cognitively healthy way of real discussion and healthy
That's the
debate
word.
around the things.
Yes.
And there's a great many presuppositions just in the name, anarcho,
Yeah.
anarchy. Dig into that word.
Yes. Oh,
Look
bring it
at it.
on, dude. This might be a fun one for
Um,
me. I can embrace my
yeah.
inner Adam.
Well, I mean, essentially, the presupposition that anarchy is like everybody ruling themselves in some sense doesn't. We've been digging into this quite a lot, like in really getting a clearer lens on the language and their etymologies and all of those things. And in practice and actuality, and all the definitions I found, it means essentially chaos. It means to have complete lack
Right.
of rule and order,
Yeah.
and that doesn't. The implication is that all law, rule, and order is imposed, which is
Right.
seems to be a fallacious claim,
Yeah.
something that is inaccurate.
It was
Go for
funny.
it.
Well, it was funny because we went to Acapulco, we got invited, and I was like, anarchy? Like, am I an anarchist? Because all I knew
No.
was like punk music, it was like anarchy in the UK and all that stuff. But then, I looked into a few things and we went to the conference and I thought, maybe I am an anarchist. What I've heard was not what necessarily was true. So, because this is what like I said, the punk music, the anarchists, there's this
Mhm.
chaos. It wasn't chaos. It's not the
Well,
way.
that's not the way that it's housed in their description of anarchy. And what I'm saying is that there is a differentiation to be made where the choice to take on that word has real ramifications when you go into those identities, those roles, those titles that you
Yeah,
uh, take on by virtue of birth within our society and within the cultural context and within the momentum of where law comes from. And law comes from natural presuppositions. We call it natural law, but it's the empirical method describes very fundamental axioms about the experience of life that we call natural law.
right.
And out of that come these other things. And, you know, so anarchy supposes that in some sense that there is no natural order
Okay.
fundamentally.
Okay.
And I find that to be not something that I totally jive with. I actually find that laws and the rules that we choose to have around as a framework for our better interactions are a great benefit and necessary.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, and it's interesting too because my dad would say there is a law and order to the way nature works.
Mm-hmm.
So using the words, and you said something too. The biggest thing with all this is that D word of being able to have the discussions about these
Mm-hmm.
things.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like I said, I don't know everything, and there were certain things where I was wrong. And I say that. My girlfriend said it once because it had to do with even with the vaccine and things I had seen in the blood and stem cells that we had studied a period of time
Mm-hmm.
ago. And there was something I thought, and I was wrong. And I thought this for like 6 years. And then it was like, oh shit, I was wrong. And Anna she said, you know what? You said that. And it was kind of interesting because I realized that I haven't heard many people say that. You know?
Acknowledge and admit that they
Yeah.
were incorrect or misled or mistaken or any
Right.
number of things,
And
right?
this is something Dad would say. He said, look, 80% of what I've done will last and 20% will be proven wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He said, and I'm curious to see where people take this work. And even we talk a little bit about Einstein with some of the stuff we do. And it's funny because, as we learn about people, and then there's a whole group of people that are like Einstein, fraud, and all this stuff. Look, what I can tell you is there was a few things. Particles cannot be separated from the space they're in. That's very important for us. Okay. And Josh said this. Einstein actually was one of the few people, too, who admitted he was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That he would say, look, I was wrong. So I give a lot of credit for that. That's kind of an important thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and we have another little Einstein note that's pretty funny. If you've ever seen pictures of videos of my dad, he looks a lot like Albert Einstein. And when my dad was an eye surgeon, he actually had Einstein's actual eyeballs in his desk. His patient or his partner, the grandchildren were patients of the partner, and they somehow Einstein's eyeballs were there. And Michael Jackson tried to buy them once, but my dad would sometimes he would have questions and he would ask Einstein's eyeballs. Kind of weird and creepy and interesting, right? But no, I appreciate that, dude. The discussions, we all have a lot to learn. We're here to learn something.
Well, what you just said about people's information, it's like Einstein, for instance. He admitted when he was later in his career that he was incorrect or misinterpreted certain things. We could take Pasteur. He did the same thing. We could take any number of people in the scientific realm that later changed their take on their own findings and say, actually, now upon further, the issue seems to me to be that there is this whole college and the professional realm builds a momentum based on these presuppositions that may have been incorrect, and then all of a sudden downstream of that, people have built whole careers and set up institutes and all of these things. And I'm reminded of a quote that I might butcher, and I don't even know if I can attribute it, but you can look it up. Never expect someone to change their mind about something that their paycheck requires them not to.
Yeah. It makes sense. That's the thing is, dude, we have to be flexible in our thinking. I mean, life happens and there's different circumstances that come up and everyone is unique and stuff like that. So I think that's part of our navigation.
I would agree with you with one caveat. We don't have to.
Yeah.
We don't have to.
Don't have to.
We have the opportunity. We don't have to change our thinking.
Yeah. Right.
We have an opportunity to step into the place where we get to.
Yeah.
And that comes from, building an aptitude for self-discovery and really digging in the way you're talking about into the subjects that we're interested in, into the spaces that we're interested in, really looking at them with some discernment. And that goes for looking inward as more so in some ways.
Oh yeah.
That informs how we look out.
There was a point in time I got tired of hearing about it. Yeah. Got to do your inner work. We all have to do, and you're right. We all have the opportunity.
We all get to.
Yeah, right. We can come back and do this again,
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather not. I think I've done this enough at this point. I'm enjoying the whole experience, but I'd like to feel like, yes, accomplished and we're moving. There's something else going. There's more out there I want to experience, on the physical experience and beyond that. But, and I'm really curious. I'm excited to see what happens next, and I've always said this, what happens next, only time will tell. Mm-hmm. So be open, be ready. And if we feed the vibration, it's pretty interesting what comes into the picture. It's so funny. I was in Seattle and I was working my butt off. I'm trying to do things. My brother's the blood guy. I'm trying to do webinars and do the emails and do online stuff and, connect with people and do workshops. And I'm trying to generate the awareness and I'm getting tired, right? But if I don't do this, no one's going to do this. So at one point I was on the back porch working and the squirrels were out of control. I love squirrels. They're fun. They were out of control. There was like 7 of them running around. So I was like, stop it. I can't work. This is ridiculous. But then I stopped and I thought, okay, this is interesting. I've never had the squirrels doing this before. What do squirrels mean? So you looked it up on, like Animal Speaks book, what do squirrels mean? Squirrels come to you in time when you should focus on joy. I was like, oh, all right, can't have to convince me that one. Shut the computer, get the guitar out. Joy, yes. Squirrels calm down. And then it was funny, dude, because then the phone rang. It was like, oh, I stopped it. And I focused on joy. And then all of a sudden we got invited to Spain to lecture. Like a door opened.
Yeah.
In that one moment, I just kind of went, and I'm having the moment now of Acapulco and live blood person. Let's see what door opens. What's going to happen? Time will tell. So I'm curious. I enjoy life. It's you never know what's going to happen, right? I definitely appreciate all this good, bad, and ugly as best as possible. I will remind myself as often as I can that this sucks just for the moment, and then this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And there's a reason, am I going to act like a turd and resist? Well, then it's going to happen again. Okay, so I'm learning. We're all learning, and if I can do whatever I can to support people, I'm happy to. I think at this point, the more I can do with kids, the better. Because where I am here, there's a big expatriate senior community, and I can teach the kids songs about terrain, or I can argue with some senior about graphene. What's better for me? Where is it better? This is the big question.
What feeds that joy you're talking about?
Well, and where do we put our focus? Where do we put our attention? There's a guy in town who does live blood analysis, and he tells people that my dad was demented, right? So do I go kick his ass? What?
That's one way. That's one way of doing it.
Yeah, all is well. The people that resonate with him will find him, and the people that resonate with me will find me. And I will remind myself, as words are power, and I will say it often. I'm easy. I say it a lot. I'm easy because I really want to be easy. That doesn't mean I'm a pushover, which, as I'm very happy and friendly and I'm not, I can be very tough sometimes, which surprises people, but I want to be easy. I don't want to be difficult for people. I love Aikido. You blend with the energy and you flow. I'm the surfer. I want to ride the wave. I don't want to get smacked by it. You know what I mean? So I'm doing my best. I feel like
I love that. I want to ride the wave and not get smacked by it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I tend to do pretty well with that. We'll see what happens in Acapulco because they got some big waves there. That's for sure.
Yeah. I know Mike's going to want to surf with you.
We did this last time we were both there. And I brought my bodyboard with me because I'm a bodyboarder. And I jumped up that morning. I was like, dude, I'll meet you out in the waves. And he was like, yeah. And I went out that morning and the waves were big. Damn it. And I got out. I didn't even get hammered. I got one big ass wave and woo, and I went in, and that was that. There was no Mike. No one. It's weird being in the ocean by yourself out there. And I saw him later. I was like, dude, you go out? And he was like, hell no, that was huge out there. I was like, oh, Mike is a big guy, and Adam is not a big guy. But Adam felt like a big guy at that moment. I went in the water. Dude, you went in the water?
He ain't big. He just tall.
He's just tall. Yeah.
Love you, Mike.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that was fun, too. I really think my be-all, end-all at this point is being with people. I do awesome things online like this. Josh and I do webinars. We do 2 a month, a Q&A and a guest webinar. We have our School of Health for $27. We do courses online. We've got people around the world. It's awesome. But my be-all, end-all is I want to be with the people. I get the opportunity to go to Acapulco. I may only get 45 minutes to speak, and I'm used to speaking for 2 hours, easy. But then I can hang out with all those people. That's what's important.
Looking forward to that.
Yes. I mean, to me, hanging out at the bar with Max Egan, Andrew Kaufman, and Steve Falconer was crazy. It was like, this is just weird,
Yeah.
And awesome. We definitely didn't talk about the Charger game. There were some conversations there that were fun as hell, for sure. So I get to go do things like that. And I appreciate the universe. Okay, we're trying to buy some land. I don't have money, a lot of money. We're going to spend all the money. Land in Mexico
Yet.
Can be weird. Yet, yes. All is well. Thank you for the reinforcement on that. But stress, pressure, looking, realtors, and then on the way home from the trip to double check and make sure. And I'm starving. It's late. Oh, but the way we came home goes right by Steak Brothers that has the ribeye burger that is my favorite. Thank you, God. And then I'm the little things in life, right? For a long time I had a Coca-Cola problem, and I don't drink Coca-Cola anymore. Yay. Pandemic was funny.
Good plan.
Dude, someone said beginning of pandemic was like, I said, I would never inject something into my body that I don't know what's in it. And he said, well, you drink Coca-Cola. And I went,
Bingo.
Not anymore. That day forward, I never did it. But, there's something with carbonation. I do like sugar, yay, even though sugar cane is lots of sugar cane growing on my property that I'm looking to buy. Local honey is awesome, right? Sweets, natural sweets. But I go get my ribeye burger, and they have drinks I don't really like. But next door, the little teeny market, they have ginger ale. No one has ginger ale. Like, oh, I like ginger ale. But then they have the new limited edition ginger ale with the lemonade in it. So to me, it was like, thank you, God. I got my ribeye burger after a stressful day of macheteing through the woods for 4 hours, actually whining because no one brought the damn machete. Yay. And actually for Hanukkah, you can't really see it, but above my guitar, I got a machete for Hanukkah.
Oh, nice work.
Buddy. So doing this, it was a stressful day. It was intense. I don't know what we want to do. Are they trying to rip me off? And blah, 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 blah. And then coming back and realizing the universe is actually giving us what we asked for. Be careful what you ask for, guys. All right.
That's correct.
It's happening, you know. And then I thought, whoa, weird. But then I got the reinforcement of my favorite burger and a soda.
Yeah.
These are the little things I interpret as the universe saying you're doing okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And there's opportunity to ride that wave into more
Dude,
greatness.
you can see the joy on my face. Like it was really,
That's
it's one
right.
of those little moments, dude, of I can taste that burger now. Okay.
Yeah.
And when I'm stuck in traffic and life is difficult, you know, I can do the heart-centered breathing and breathe into my heart and focus on some joy and feel better. I can go right back to that burger. Yeah.
Yeah. And how great is it to learn how to habituate yourself to the good shit? Because many people are habituated to constant focus on the negative and the downsides and the bad things. And so let's leave that for our next conversation. Because that
cool.
talk of burger is making my mouth salivate.
It's almost taco time. Yes.
It's almost taco time. It's been fantastic. Now, in order to reach out to you, if people do want to engage you for the things that you're talking about, where do they find you?
Cool. Thank you for that. This is the time where my mom would come into the webinar and say, tell them about the books. Join the School of Health, because I'm not good at marketing. I love what I do, and I'll share it for hours, and then no one signs up for consultations because I didn't tell anyone that we offer consultations. So thanks for that, Abe. Bigelsenacademy.com is where we're at. If you type up my name, Bigelsen, Bigelsen, you'll find stuff on my dad. You'll see us on Quackwatch, which is where all the good doctors are, right?
Uh-huh.
Information about my dad there. There's actually a link to our website from Quackwatch, and we get a lot of business from Quackwatch because most people now know that's where the good doctors all really are. Right? So I promote Quackwatch. But BigelsenAcademy.com, there's awesome stuff out there. Okay, we've got a ton of content. Josh and I have so many resources, you know, as far as things that people haven't heard of, tools, tips, tricks, techniques, an order of operations, you know, knowing that physical, energetic, emotional, like which comes first, depending on what's going on. Mm-hmm. So you can come to our webinars. You can ask us any question you want. The Q&As, anything is available to talk about. You can get a consultation with me if you want, a conversation. If you're in the United States, we do the blood consultations, and Mexico. United States, we send you the kit. You get your blood back to us overnight. In Mexico, you get the kit to me, or if you're local, then I'll actually work with you. You know, at this point, we're also working on getting newer microscopes to other people around the world, so we can get collection centers and get blood from other places. Mm-hmm. So if there's anyone listening that does live blood analysis that realizes their patients aren't getting better potentially, yes, and is looking for something different, we have training courses. We do not train people to do the blood at the moment. We have one basic blood basics course, not holograms. Red cells, white cells, plasma activity, platelets. So much to learn there, okay? Mm-hmm. But we will not teach you that course until you take our 13-week course, because we need to get to know you first. And what's more important than the holograms in the blood is the theory and philosophy behind what we're seeing. Mm-hmm. So you can take a 12-hour live blood course now, or you can take our course for 13 weeks. And at the end of the 13 weeks, we still don't offer our blood course to everybody. Mm-hmm. We're really picky about who we work with because we've seen what people have done with this work. Mm-hmm. You know, and we feel for people. I don't want people to waste money. I don't want to have people go through the unlearning experience, you know. So check out our website, type up our name, watch the videos, have a call with me, join a webinar with us, We'll be on again. I think we're supposed to hopefully be on Alpha Vedic within the next month or so to talk about our isopathics course. Being on with you is awesome. We're out there. You just got to know how to type the name up, and then you'll find all kinds of interesting stuff. Watch videos of my dad. He's awesome. One of the best things, I have a little video with Dad. I'll leave you with this one. As he said, Western medicine. He says, I really want to talk about the experts. I have a problem with the experts, he says. He says, if you had a problem with your transmission and your car, and your mechanic has never fixed a transmission in his life, would you take your car to him? Would you ask his expert opinion? He said, Western medicine hasn't found the cause or cure of one chronic disease in over 100 years. The germ theory is a failure.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So if they haven't fixed it, why would you ask their expert opinion? They are not experts. So food for thought on that one. And the last thing, too, is get your damn joy, right? Every day. Get your damn joy. All right, cool guy. Well, awesome to see you again, to chat.
Likewise.
Had a good time with you at Music and Sky. It was nice. End of the night.
We'll be seeing each other again in about a month, which is amazing.
I'm looking forward to it. Yes.
Me
my neck of the woods. Yes. Cool.
Yeah, totally. My first time traveling anywhere outside of the States and Canada. So
nice.
First time actually using a passport.
Oh, cool. Nice. Mexico's a trip. There's a lot to be said for perception. When we look at Mexicans, a lot of times you see things in Mexico and you think these poor people. They don't have the money, but, one of the doctors I talked to, he said, they're all living in the same house, grandma, the grandchildren. They have one big TV. They watch the football games, the soccer games. They work. They go to school. He said, they're not beating their wife in these little places. When you see these poor areas, so when you see Mexico and you think, these poor people, just because they don't have money doesn't mean we need to feel sorry for them. There's a lot less cancer here than we've got, right? And Acapulco, last time we were there right after a hurricane was a little intense. I'm on the beach having a blast. You turn around, there's a building that's half, fallen down. And you see a really interesting contrast there.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed this culture here. Family is important still. The food is awesome. A lot of the farmers don't have enough money to afford chemicals for their farming, which is not a bad thing. Yep, not funny? Yep, little things. So we'll have some tacos, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Lots of love, brother. And all you out there who attend and enjoy this, grace be upon you. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Enjoy.